my name is Miguel Myers. Welcome to My Horror Confessional, where every week I will have a guest come on and talk about one classic horror movie that they haven't seen and why. We'll discuss the movie, the actors, and probably get off topic quite a bit. Once I believe they have properly atoned, I will absolve them of their horror movie sin. Today, we have my good friend Max Booth III, writer and director of Satan His Own Self, starring Trey Hudson and Andrew Hilbert, both former guests of the podcast. Huh? What's that, Max? Oh yeah, I guess he also wrote some small indie thing called We Need to Do Something, which premiered at Tribeca, and apparently it's coming out later this year from IFC Midnight. Max is an author, screenwriter, publisher, former talk show host, and the host of the Ghoulish podcast. He's also the hardest working man I know. Max, thanks for coming on the show.
Nobody's ever called me a man before. That felt good.
You liked that, right?
I did, yeah.
I was questioning whether or not to say it, but
Usually they call me a boy.
But it felt good. Felt good. Hey, Max, so what is your history with horror? Horror movies, horror books, growing up? Did you love it? Did you hate it?
I've always loved it. It's always been in my life. I mean, I grew up with several older brothers who always liked it. I don't know what got them into it, but it was always around the house. It was always playing. So it was just, there was no I've discovered this genre. The genre has always just been part in my life. I mean, I grew up obsessed with the Evil Dead trilogy, especially. That was one that was always playing in the house. Same with the Dead trilogy. So it's odd I hadn't seen Return of the Living Dead until today.
Yeah. Did you at any point... I asked this question of all my guests because this is what kind of happened to me. Is I grew up watching horror, but then at some point I kind of left it behind. Mm-hmm. It was probably right around the time I started getting interested in girls. And then, once I got my girl, I got my wife, then I was, able to start watching them again. It was some weird thing that happened. I don't quite understand it. For me, do you have that similar situation, or was it a constant your whole life?
It's been a constant my whole life. Let me ask you, what did you get it? Did you switch genres at all? Or did you just go, I'm done watching movies?
I honestly, I don't want to sound like a party fucking animal or something like that, but, around the age of, 20, I just... started going to clubs and meeting girls. Yeah.
I never met anyone who went to a club. That's crazy. In the movies, the clubs they go to?
Yeah, we all knew a guy named Tony, and he would wear the chains, and he let us in. And there was women there. And there was alcohol,
What else? Tell me more.
Fancy music, It was quick time music.
That's so impressive.
No, it's just, I ran with the... Okay, I think it's because I didn't find anybody who really liked horror I did. And so if I wanted to pursue that, I would be on my own doing that. But I chose instead to, go with the crowd who was they liked drinking and hanging out and doing all that other stuff. So I went that way.
What age was this?
Probably 16 until I was 30.
Well, we had really different childhoods as well. I mean, I from age 12 to 16, I lived in a hotel room with my parents.
I saw this revelation on Twitter the other day.
Yeah, so I mean, we were taken out of my house and we moved into a hotel room. I was taken out of school. And I never saw any of my friends again. So it was it was a pretty big social withdrawal.
Yeah.
And that will change how someone interacts with people quite a bit.
Yeah. So what age again?
I was 12.
12.
And we lived in it until I was 16. Then we got a new house. And I went to one of those dropout schools, for criminals and pregnant people. I got my my diploma that way. But I feel like everybody in that school was significantly older than I was. And they just seemed like they had gone through a different type of puberty than I had.
Yeah.
they all seemed pretty developed and confident in how they talked and who they were. And
they were all jaded and smoking cigarettes.
Yeah, they all went to clubs, unlike myself. So yeah, I didn't really talk to anybody. I didn't have much of a friendship with anybody until I moved away from Indiana and kind of really embraced the indie horror scene, and that's how I met you and Andrew and everybody.
Yeah, I honestly find that this time of my life, I'm happier. Just indulging in something that makes me happy all the time, which is horror. You have come on the show today to confess that you have never seen Return of the Living Dead.
That's not true. I just saw it. We just watched it.
Damn it, that's true. Okay, new format. No, but you had never seen, up until we saw Return of the Living Dead.
That is true.
Okay, 1985. You were born when?
93.
Okay.
But that shouldn't change anything. I grew up watching Night of the Living Dead. I grew up watching that trilogy and so many other movies. But for some reason, that I don't know why, this never, it was on. I never watched it. I knew about it. I thought it was also a musical. From what people told me about it.
Maybe because they were telling you that the soundtrack is amazing?
Maybe. I thought it might have been a musical. And for some reason, I wasn't super big with Hulu comedies as a kid.
I can see that.
I think the only one I really did like was Dead Alive.
Dead Alive.
Also known as Brain Dead.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Oh, you're one of those pretentious. Actually, it was called Brain Dead.
Yeah. No, I just completely forgot about it, that name of it.
Yeah.
But you said the Evil Dead trilogy, so Army of Darkness is a horror comedy.
Exactly, yeah. So I don't know what I meant when I said I didn't like Hulu comedies. Maybe I'm just lying. But
well, you heard it here first, folks. We got him caught.
That's a good point. I don't know why this one specifically I never got on with. Mm-hmm. Because it has many things I quite love.
Yeah.
Maybe I thought it was a sequel to a movie that I hadn't seen. Because Return of the Living Dead does sound like a sequel to a movie.
I think actually, because I didn't see this one until maybe
today,
a decade ago, maybe 15 years ago. But it was well within adulthood. And I hadn't seen it, and I think that's exactly why. Because I was like, well, I've never seen The Living Dead.
Yeah, that might be why.
Yeah.
Well, you maybe covered this in a previous episode. What is your movie? Do you have one that you haven't seen that you're ashamed of?
I actually have a bunch. I have a list on Letterboxd that I think I sent to you, or maybe you were actually the first person I talked to about this podcast, and you kind of got me excited to do it.
Yeah.
And right away you were like, yeah, I want to do Return of the Living Dead.
Yeah.
But since then, I've created a list on Letterboxd that when I ask people if they're interested in coming on, I send it to them, and it started at 50, now it's like at 250. And are you on Letterboxd at all?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you know that whenever you make a list, it tells you the percentage of. Mm-hmm. So I think I'm at like 60 or 70% of that list. So I haven't seen everything.
Are these movies you just want to see?
Yeah, and that's primarily one of the reasons why I wanted to make this podcast, was because I know a bunch of people who love horror movies, and there's some movies that just pass you by.
And this was one for me.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So Return of the Living Dead was directed by Dan O'Bannon, written by John A. Russo, and starring horror legends Linnea Quigley, Clu Gallagher, Don Calfa, and Miguel Nunez Jr. So we also saw the special features on the disc.
Yeah, they had a little behind-the-scenes documentary, and we kind of discovered that it was O'Bannon who wrote the script that was filmed.
Yeah.
Because Russo wrote a script that O'Bannon did not want to make, and the only reason he would make it is if he was able to rewrite it.
Right, because he didn't want to infringe on George Romero's Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah.
Which I feel a little bit bad for Russo because they went through a whole lengthy legal process where they were like, Romero could continue down the line with the Dead series, and then Russo could do the Living Dead series.
Right.
And then once he gets to the point where he's making a movie, the director's like, I still don't want to fuck with George Romero. Yeah. Which I completely understand, because Romero's a freaking legend.
I'm interested, do you know what the original screenplay was like? Because the way O'Bannon talked about it, it was like a direct sequel to Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah, and in fact, he wrote a novel, or maybe it was a novella. It wasn't very long. I have it. I just haven't read it.
Which one is it?
Russo wrote a novel for Return of the Living Dead, and I believe it takes place 10 years later after the original, and it follows a group of sisters, two sisters, who are holed up in a house, and they are attacked by. It's kind of like a assault on Precinct 13 sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then I think it just devolves from that. That's what the book was about.
Okay.
And then he wrote that he turned that into script. Like you said, O'Bannon didn't like it. O'Bannon wrote his own thing, and then they filmed that, and then Russo made the movie adaptation. He wrote the movie of the script. He wrote the novel.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so it's like a whole head, snake eating its own head sort of thing.
Is that
snake eating its own tail.
Are you making a snide comment about my movie?
No, I was not.
I don't know if you know this, Miguel, but I recently wrote a movie.
Yeah, I've actually seen it twice. So, Max, if you can hold off for plugs at the end of the podcast, I give you time. I give you ample time. I would appreciate it if you would. I will
plug it anytime I see a hole.
Dan O'Bannon, he actually was a writer first, and he wrote Alien.
You could definitely tell, I think, because both Alien and this movie have like heavy blue collar themes, meaning like they focus on people doing like physical jobs.
Right.
Because I mean, Alien is all about like those shitty jobs, but it's in a spespaceship.
It's a warehouse job.
Yeah, it's custodians and shit. And then what the hell is this movie? Is this movie
Return
called Confessional?
Return of the Living Dead.
And I mean, that's about people looking at a medical supply building. I like that. I don't know what else he's written off the top of my head, but I bet you those themes kind of go throughout his work.
Yeah, and he actually worked with John Carpenter on a student film called Dark Star. Did you ever see that?
I have not seen that.
I saw it because I was doing a complete like Carpenter run a couple of years ago, and I'm not typically a sci-fi person, but I did see it, and it was okay. It was really weird.
There's a few of Carpenter's movies I haven't seen. I need to. Maybe I'll come back.
Yeah, he's got some great, like The Eyes of Laura Mars.
I haven't seen that one yet.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely.
He made this one movie about like Halloween. I need to check out.
Well, just one of the greatest movies ever. He wrote a segment for Heavy Metal. We're talking about Dan O'Bannon. He did Alien, Dark Star, Blue Thunder. I've never seen Blue Thunder.
I think I own that on DVD.
Life Force. He wrote the screenplay for, and then Invaders from Mars.
He kind of like went out, huh? On the documentary we were watching with him talking to the camera, he seemed kind of disappointed in the way his career went. He was kind of jaded. Yeah,
definitely. He only did the Return of the Living Dead, and it looks like The Resurrected in '91, which I've never heard of.
Who the fuck has seen The Resurrected?
Oh, it's another H.P. Lovecraft. I'm not a big Lovecraft fan, so we can just disregard that. But he did what he did with the stories he read. He wrote are great. Like Alien is an all-time classic, and so is Return of the Living Dead. Yeah, he ended up writing this one as well.
I wonder what happened, like with his career.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe just a lack of profiting and no one else wanting to fund what he's making.
Sometimes you'll see directors who are willing to go along with the machine,
mm-hmm.
and he didn't seem like one of those guys.
Yeah, that's a good point. I won't say who, but I was recently talking to a friend of mine who works in Hollywood. He's a good guy, really good dude, and he's built with a really famous director of a really famous movie. And I was like, man, what the fuck? Why hasn't he made more movies? Is it just because no one will give him any money? And my friend said, no, it's because he's an asshole to work with.
Huh.
And I think that's the case with a lot of these people.
Well, you see somebody like George Romero, who was making classic after classic, and he always had a really difficult time getting money for his movies.
Yeah.
And even like, I remember Akira Kurosawa as well. I was really, really deeply into Akira Kurosawa and his movies, and I remembered that he wasn't able to get his movies funded.
When is he made? Is he Seven Samurai?
Yeah, Seven Samurai and Rashomon.
Yes.
And he was just making incredible movies, and he had ended up turning to like Russian-backed producers or whatever because nobody was willing to give him his money, and even like
Carpenter isn't making anything.
Yeah, like Carpenter can't get funding, and there's a certain director that gets funding, and it's not always the best ones.
Yeah.
I mean, you're a fan of Tarantino, so you know that.
Why you have to be rude about it?
I'm staring at a Once Upon a Time in Hollywood poster on the wall here.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, so it's right there.
Behind you is a novelization of
Jesus
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
All right, so I was reading, before we start talking about the movie, I just wanted to say something. Max and I used to be on a Simpsons podcast. Do you remember this?
Yeah, I do.
What was it called? It was called...
I named it. We Shot Mr. Burns.
We Shot Mr. Burns.
I named it after you guys had done many episodes. I wasn't even on it.
Yeah, I think I don't know about many, because totally we didn't do many, but maybe 3 or 4.
Maybe I named it, but then Ladle came on as a... host.
You came on as a host, and then we're like, "Fucking Max is awesome. We should, stay on there."
And then you guys immediately stopped. I did like 2 or 3 episodes.
We're like, "Fuck." All right. So about the Simpsons, I was gonna say it's been stated in the book called "The Complete History of the Return of the Living Dead" that Matt Groening, who's the creator of the Simpsons, he came up with 2 taglines for this movie that were used on posters, which I don't know what his connection was to it, but that's what I found. One was, "They're hungry and they're not vegetarians."
All right.
Which is seen in some trailers. And the other tagline was, "First they want to meet you, then they want to eat you."
I like that.
But that one was rejected by the studio.
What?
Today we're talking about Return of the Living Dead. It starts off with a very interesting scene. It shows you the date as July 3rd. And Max jumped up out of his seat when he saw it.
I was so surprised.
Yeah, because... because why?
I just, whenever a movie takes place in July, I'm just like, what the hell? That's a month?
No, he's just being shy. It's because he actually told me, "Wow, that's the day before my birthday."
Yeah.
I was like, "Wow, that's so coincidence. That's such a coincidence."
What a coincidence. It's almost my birthday. It's almost always almost someone's birthday.
And in fact, we'll get to it, but the movie ends on your birthday.
It does.
So this is kind of about you. So after Max sat down from being so excited, we started watching the movie.
You'll lie. I stood the entire time.
The whole entire time. That's right. I had to ask him to sit after a while, because he was doing that thing where it's like he's bouncing from one foot to the other foot. He's like, "Oh, this hurts so much." I'm like, "Max, just sit."
You told me to sit in my own house. It was quite presumptuous of you.
And so we have a close up of this company called Unita Medical Supply, and that's where we meet Frank, Bert, and Freddie.
Now that you say the name out loud, I realize. I was like, what does that mean?
Oh, man. You're like, UNEEDA, United Nations.
I'll tell you, I saw it and I thought, this is definitely a jokey name, but I could not crack the puzzle. Really? I mean, think about that. That's a background Simpsons episode joke.
Is it at the church when they always have names on it, or is it?
Yeah.
So we meet Frank, Bert, and Freddie. Bert is giving Freddie the tour, and he's showing him your favorite part of the movie was the split dogs.
The split? I don't know. It wasn't my favorite.
Okay. No, but you enjoyed it.
So when they said split dogs, I was disappointed when they showed them to us, because they were in packaging and you couldn't really see much.
Right.
And when he said split dog, I imagined what's that Terminator from the second one, that liquid metal.
Yeah.
Robit. That's how you say it, right?
Robit.
But we don't really get to see much of it until much later. Zombie gas comes out.
Yeah.
And it gets these split dog statues. I don't know. It is alive and it's whining and it should be gruesome and depressing, but it's just really funny to me.
Yeah.
Especially when he hits it with a piece of wood or something and it screams like a rebel chicken.
And then when it's later in the movie, when it's turned over, you see it pulsating.
Yeah. And
then also there's slimy, which I did not like.
So I have lots of questions about a split dog.
Let's keep doing it.
I don't anticipate you knowing the answers, but maybe, I don't know, maybe you do a lot of research on this podcast.
Wow.
At one point,
gauntlet has been thrown.
At one point, when he was introducing the concept of a split dog to the newbie, what's his name? Eddie?
Frank.
Fast guy Eddie?
No.
The young boy?
Freddie.
Yeah, fast guy Freddie. That's a Quentin Tarantino reference. I know you don't get it.
Is he a director?
He's a filmmaker. Oh. He said, yeah, these split dogs are in high demand because vets use them to practice on. Is that a true thing? Is someone splitting dogs?
Oh.
And if so, how? Yeah, I have lots of I can't.
You're fascinated by
I'm fascinated by the concept of a split dog.
Yeah, because
for those listening, they haven't seen the movie. when we say split dog, imagine a dog standing up, and someone has somehow grabbed that dog and split him in half lengthwise. And you can see all the insides of the dog still like on the side. The other half is missing. And it looks really much like one of those things you would see at a doctor's hospital, like when you want to know like what's inside of a vagina. You see the statues, you can take the things out and play with them. But imagine that with a dog.
Yeah. What other questions did you have about the split dogs?
That's pretty much it.
Okay. Bert is giving Freddy the tour, and then he shows us the skeletons, and he tells us the thing about this body farm in India. Skeleton farm.
I think he's implying that in India they just grow skeletons, which is a really cool thing to think about.
That's pretty cool, right?
How would you grow a skeleton?
A lot of milk.
Come in eggs.
I mean, yeah, I guess. Eventually, right?
I guess.
No, it makes me think of like they're watering the ground with milk or something like that.
With milk?
Yeah, because calcium does it body good, right?
Would you just get a cow and just stand in front of it?
Just squeeze it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Not sure.
I'm writing a book right now. I'm not going to get too much into the detail to the plot, but the opening scene is about a dad and a son in the backyard ripping up an old garden, and they find a little skeleton finger sticking out of the ground like a plant. So it reminded me a bit of that.
Okay. Something along the lines of that happened to me, and it was really creepy.
What?
A friend of mine was moving. I won't say who, but they were moving out of town, and they're also a horror collector, and they had a bunch of stuff that they were going to be taking with them. So he's like, they gave me like I don't know, 5 or 6 plastic tubs full of Halloween decorations and posters, just stuff like that. So I was going through them all, and I found this like very small brass container, and I shook it, and it sounded like there's a coin inside, right? So I went, ding, 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 ding. I open it up. There's what looks like a pinky bone in there. I was like, holy shit, this must be a decoration.
Yeah.
I pull it out, and it felt like a real bone. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Did I just find somebody's like ransom note or something?
Ransom note.
So I was like, fuck, my fingerprints are on this now. So I threw it back in there. I put it down. I was like, texting my friend. I was like, hey, man, I just found, and I took a picture. I was like, I just found this. Is this yours? He's like, holy shit, I'm so embarrassed. I can't believe that was in there. I was like, oh, yeah, do you want it back? He's like, yes, I need it back. I was like, I don't want to know anything.
What?
I didn't want to know anything.
Oh, my God.
You would have wanted to know?
How could you live with yourself without knowing every detail?
Because because you know why? Because I grew up, my grandfather on my mom's side didn't have his pinky, whatever these two, the middle finger and the one in the middle of that. Index.
What?
He didn't have these three. The pinky, the middle finger, and the one that's in the middle of them.
The ring finger?
Is the ring finger? Okay,
yeah.
So the ring finger. This is the index finger? Is this good for podcasts? So anyway, he didn't have these 3. They were chopped at like an angle.
Why?
Because when he was a younger man, he lived in Puerto Rico, and for income, he would chop down mangoes and just trees that were up, fruits that were in the trees and stuff like that. And one day he was drunk and chopped off his own freaking fingers.
I thought you were going to tell me he was selling his fingers.
I mean, maybe. I don't know. No, but he ended up losing them.
Yeah.
And so I thought maybe it's some family pinky that he doesn't want to talk about. I don't know.
I would have made him tell me everything before I gave it back to him.
What if you got implicated in something, and then you got to deal with that?
Like what?
Maybe he killed somebody and kept the pinky as a...
That'd be awesome.
Maybe he's a warlock.
I want to be involved in anything. I'm lonely.
Yeah, just
include me.
I guess if I would have known that one. We see the skeletons, and then we're also introduced to Body in the Freezer. The yellow-looking bald dude.
Yeah, I think I missed that somehow.
When we were introduced to him?
Yeah, I think I missed the intro to him. So
okay.
Tell me what happened.
He's in the freezer, and he's wrapped up in a plastic bag.
Okay.
And then Frank is giving Freddy the tour.
I guess we can just say those 3 men who look at this medical supply thing. One of them owns the place. One of them is just a guy who's a long-term employee, and one of them's a rookie.
Yeah.
And we're gonna mix up the names.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what the names are.
Yeah. So back off. That's when they show the body in the freezer, and then Frank's like, basically be careful, don't go in there or anything like that, But that's when he's introduced, and you said that it reminded you of claymation.
Yeah, so I don't recollect seeing this yellow bastard. That's
when it was first introduced.
That's a Sin City reference, written by Taylor Wilson. I didn't recollect seeing the yellow ghoul until he was reanimated and running around. But he really much reminded me of this claymation, like one of my favorite claymations of all time. I think it's from Russia, but I could be wrong. It came out like in '89. When did this movie come out?
This came out in '85.
Okay, yeah. Movie came out in '85. This claymation came out in '89. It's called Darkness, Light, Darkness. It's like a 6-minute claymation of basically a man coming to life from nothing. I'll show it to you if you want after this. Well, even we can pause if you want. I can show it to you.
We could link it as well.
Yeah, we could link it. But the human that is built looks so much like this yellow dead body, except in the claymation he's green.
Okay.
Yeah, that's just reminded me of it.
Yeah.
I thought maybe like someone had ripped someone off, but if anything, this claymation had ripped off the movie.
Yeah, well, to be fair, it's a pretty standard white dude, bald white dude.
He's yellow.
That's true. All right. And then one thing I wanted to mention is I think the most famous piece of trivia, everybody always talks about it, is when they walk into the office, in the background there's an eye chart, for like when you take an eye test. And it says, Bert is a slave driver and a cheap son of a bitch who's going bald too. Ha ha.
Everybody talks about this?
Yeah. I went to... Everybody who's ever seen this movie, Max.
All right.
I went to a show. I've seen this movie maybe, probably a dozen times, and 3 or 4 of them have been on the big screen. And one of them I'll talk to you. You had a question about, so we'll talk about later.
I did?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's whenever they have a trivia section of it, hosts will come up and like, hey, we're giving away free stuff. They'll ask the question. This is almost always the question. What does the eye chart say?
What do they give away?
When I went, the last one I went to, it was a Mondo copy of the soundtrack.
Okay, cool.
And then they'll also give away the special edition Blu-ray or whatever.
Oh, wow.
So it was cool stuff. And then I don't think they talked about it in the special features that we saw. Or maybe they did. I don't remember. But the dialogue had this like 40s and 50s dialogue from like a comedy where like they just riff off each other one after another real quick. And I really enjoyed that. And
that's the dialogue I like a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just back and forth. Well, I mean, they did explain it in the special features, and maybe I'm cutting you off. I don't know.
No,
I'm just going to keep talking anyway. And one of the reasons why they were able to deliver that quality of dialogue is they had the time to rehearse. They did like a couple of weeks of just rehearsing before filming, and that is not common in movies.
What did they do for your movie? We need to do something.
We did do a week of rehearsing.
Okay.
And the cast was really appreciative because they don't get to have that happen often. Like Vanessa Shaw, who's been in movies since the 90s. I mean, she was in what's that fucking witch movie?
Blair Witch?
No, the kid witch movie with Bette Midler.
Oh,
Hocus Pocus. She was in Hocus Pocus. She's been acting a while, and she was like, "Man, no one ever does rehearsals now." So they were really stoked that they had that time to get to know each other and find chemistry and build it, what does work and what doesn't work. And because of that, you were able to find okay, maybe this line of dialogue isn't going to work in the actual movie, so let's change it now and find a good rhythm together before we even begin filming, and then we don't waste time on the day of.
Yeah. Did you guys, I know some sets allow or even directors allow their actors to improvise lines or change lines the day of while they're filming?
There's a few things they will improvise, just because they Sean King O'Grady, the director, he did so many takes of everything. I'm trying to think of anything. There's a scene where the Pat Healy and Vanessa Shaw are like yelling at each other by the bathroom door while things happen in the background that we're supposed to be focusing on, and there's no dialogue in the script of like what they should be yelling at each other, and so we will like just just yell shit, and so all the stuff they yell at each other in that scene. It's just improvised, and it was fun watching like the dailies of that one because they would just crack each other up trying to be angry at each other.
Yeah.
And there was one line in particular that I still laugh at that's in the movie. Pat Healy yells, "I have a plan!" And it directly proceeds what he was trying to do that was supposedly his plan, and it's so fucking stupid. And for him to shout after the fact, "I have a plan!"
Yeah.
It's like... You little fucking deranged.
So you say that the actors were appreciative of that.
Yeah.
Do you think it helped them overall, like in the quality of what they brought to their character?
Yeah, I think so. They had the extra time to get the. I mean, think about like when you buy a new pair of shoes. It's not great when you first get them and walk around. You have to break them in. Yeah. And I think when you rehearse like that, you get to break in the character.
Yeah, so it just doesn't make sense to me why this is not how it's done.
It's a money thing.
Yeah,
because you have to pay them to rehearse. You have to pay the case of this movie, we had them in a hotel room. It wasn't in LA or anything. We flew them out to Michigan, and it's an extra week to pay for the hotel room. It's an extra week to pay for the food, I assume.
Yeah. Not
positive that they paid for the meals before the filming began. But they have to get paid every single day that they do anything, and just because it's not filming, they're still doing a job. So that's why it's to save money.
Yeah, it seems short-sighted because if it comes out in the movie, it makes your movie better quality-wise.
I agree. Yeah.
Not, it just seems short-sighted to me. So you were on the set of your film the whole time. It was I think not the first week, right?
I missed day one.
Day one, okay.
Because on day two, they had a COVID positive, so they had to shut down for over the next weekend. Yeah. And they resumed the following Monday, which was the day I was going to show up anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what was that experience like?
It was fine.
Seeing this...
Be more specific, because I've been asked this question a lot, and I don't know what to say besides it was good.
Yeah. Well, I just mean this story. Well, it actually started off as a script, right? You said.
Yeah.
And then you turned the script into a novel.
Yeah, and then I turned that into a script.
Yeah.
And which was a great way to write, I think, I discovered, because the original script is nothing like how the last script came out.
I was about to ask you, is it essentially the same thing?
Well, the book and also the movie now have a lot of supernatural stuff, and also nice romance subplot that I like, and none of that was in the original screenplay. It had nothing supernatural in it at all. There was no love subplot to it. It was pretty basic, and I think having the skeleton of an outline essentially as a script that I then thought, well, how do I make this into a book, really helped me expand and see the flaws in the original screenplay.
Yeah. And you actually, in the book, have a lot of comedic elements.
Yeah.
Specifically, is it Bobby is the boy's name? I forget.
Bobby, yeah.
Bobby. He is kind of like the heart and soul of the book, and you are terrible to him.
Yeah.
And then you have him as the heart and soul of the book, but he's also the comedic element as well.
To me, I think, I don't know how much it translates, but to me, the dad kill is really amusing to me. Because he's angry dad. He's almost, he's angry dad taken up to 11.
Would he be, if Homer Simpson were a real person?
He might be. He kind of has the outfit.
Yeah, and he's an alcoholic.
Yeah.
So, I mentioned that because...
Yeah.
You just realized you wrote Homer and
Go ahead.
So, I mentioned that because you have this horror movie with comedic elements, and then in Return of the Living Dead, we have this horror movie with comedic elements.
I disagree.
You don't think it's a horror comedy? I mean,
I think it's a comedy movie with hill elements.
Okay. So you found more things funny than scary.
Yeah, I think the focus of Return of the Living Dead is to get a laugh.
Okay.
And I think the focus of my movie is not to get a laugh, but those laughs in it.
I think for me, when I was reading the book and then when I saw the movie, the comedy you used was to break up the anxiety or the dread and all that sort of stuff. Whereas this, in this movie, it's used, it's the primary weapon as opposed to secondary weapon.
I think you can tell usually when you watch a movie, if, like, say, also like the two Evil Dead movies, the 1 and 2. I mean, the original is really much a horror movie with comedic elements. It's not even that funny, actually, I guess, the original.
I think they tried straight up horror.
Yeah, but the second one...
I think it was it came out, some things came out funny just because of it.
No, that's a good point. Okay, so let's take the second one and Army of Darkness, right? Mm-hmm. I think the second one is really much a horror movie with comedic elements. But I think Army of Darkness embraces the goofiness much more, and it becomes a comedy with some spooky elements to it.
Right.
Yeah.
So this movie, that's one of the things that O'Bannon tried to do when he was branching away from Romero's thing. Is Romero was more talking about society at large, and then some of it was absurdist, right? Whereas, and this was, like you're saying, a straight up comedy with zombies in it, which I appreciated as well. I think there's room for all types of shit like that.
I agree, and they talked about in one of the behind-the-scenes videos about trying to make the zombies look as realistic as possible, which would sell the comedy even more. And I think that was such a great idea.
Yeah.
It really... I mean, imagine if they looked kind of goofy. I think it would, like... I don't think I would be as invested into it.
Right.
But the special effects in this movie fucking rock.
Yeah, they're pretty great. And you even asked if... I can't think of his name right now. Sex Machine.
Savini.
I just think of him as Sex Machine.
Me too. I do too.
Yeah, Tom Savini did it. He didn't do it.
No, you know, it's interesting that you would think of that because it's written by someone you love.
Who?
From Dusk Till Dawn.
That's right. I just saw that movie with Hillary, my wife Hillary, a couple weeks ago.
For the first time?
I had seen it, but she hadn't.
Okay.
And then she's like, Quentin Tarantino made this movie? I don't know.
Did she realize that was him in it, in the cast?
Yeah, she hated his guts. He's such a creep, man.
He is. He plays such a good creep.
Because he is.
He is.
He wrote a scene where Salma Hayek puts her foot in his mouth. I don't have too much problem other than his use of the N-word in his movies and he can't get away from.
I agree.
But other than that, and besides you, a lot of the Quentin Tarantino bros are kind of insufferable.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Have you ever met, like, a hero?
No, I don't really...
Would you want to meet, like, John Carpenter?
Not really, because I heard he's kind of an asshole.
Maybe.
Yeah, he's like an old curmudgeon, which is fine. Like, he doesn't need... He's done everything for me that, like, I don't really care. Like, I also don't sign or go to autograph signings.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I've seen, like, interviews with Carpenter, and, like, sometimes he'll get the question, like, you gonna make any movies? And he's like, maybe. I'm playing a video game.
Yeah, exactly. I'm making music with
smoking weed with my godson.
Yeah. Which, and I would go to see him, like, I would throw my money at him. Like, I've bought records off of his label, and I missed when he came to Austin, which I'm really angry about. But if he came, I would do it. But I don't know. And I wouldn't even pay for his autograph. Like, I love the guy, and I love Halloween. It's my favorite movie of all time. And I got all this stuff, but I don't know. That's just me.
I think about... I've been asked that question, like, with, like, what would you want to... Like, would you want to meet Stephen King and stuff? And I don't think I would really be that interested, because I don't know what I would say.
Yeah.
Hey, I like what you make, guy. Like on my podcast.
You know, one person that I did want to meet was George Romero.
Yeah.
I was so close to meeting him. We were back home in Chicago, and he was going to be at this... it was basically a revival of, like, Night of the Living Dead or something like that. Yeah. They're showing it again. I think it was they're showing the trilogy. And he was going to be the guest there. I didn't find out about it until the day of.
Yeah. And
I don't know. I was a young idiot. All the tickets were sold out. I was like, maybe I can go there and I'll buy a ticket from somebody who didn't show up or something like that.
Yeah.
I went there, I walked in, and I'm like, oh, I don't have a ticket. Is it possible to buy one? They're like, no, it's sold out. I'm like, damn. As I'm walking out, he's walking in, but he's got a crew around him.
Yeah.
And he was at that time, he was old. He was probably like in his 70s or 80s.
Yeah.
And he was so tall and so skinny and like lanky, and he was probably 10 feet away from me, and I could smell the smoke because he just chain smoked cigarettes, you know.
Yeah.
But that one I was kind of disappointed I didn't get to meet him. I wanted to be like, you know.
When I close my eyes, I try to think of both George Romero and Stan Lee. It's like the same thing that comes in my brain.
Really? Old white guy
with like brown tinted glasses,
yeah,
white heel, smoking a cigarette,
but no beard. Romero's got the beard. Stanley's clean shaven.
Was he though?
Yeah,
because I saw him at the Comic-Con and he had like some stuff going.
Oh, I don't know, but I always picture him as.
Man, whenever
I don't know. I can look it up. I'm always googling things.
Whenever Stan Lee would show up at Comic-Cons, those things will fucking nuts with fans. I used to go to many, not as like a fan, but like to sell things at a table.
Yeah.
And man, he would bring a crowd.
Yeah, and I'm sure that ups the price on your cost of your table.
Yeah, probably. I don't know.
Yeah. I
don't think cynically like that. Hey, aren't we talking about?
Oh yeah. Okay, let's get back. All right. So we're talking about the dialogue. So that was cool.
Yeah.
And then Clue Gallagher, he starts talking to you kid Freddy, right?
Yeah.
About the monsters down the zombies down in the basement.
Why is he bringing this up? I forget.
He's just like he wants to impress the new kid,
yeah,
right? And also kind of rib him a little bit. Oh, I think they're even saying that in the documentary afterwards. Freddy was believing everything that Frank was saying, so he kind of wanted to mess with him a little bit.
But is he messing with them? Because it sounds, I mean, based off of what happens, that's completely true. What he tells him.
Yeah, that's true. He wanted to scare him a little bit.
Yeah.
He's talking about, he says that the Night of the Living Dead actually took place in this world that we're living in, but the government tried to cover it up. Mm-hmm. And George Romero, they don't name him, but George Romero made this movie, and they said if you make it too real, we're going to sue you.
Yeah.
So he had to change the dates around.
I found that so funny. Just the idea that in this movie, Night of the Living Dead is a movie, and it's based on true events.
Yeah.
I thought that was so ballsy.
Oh, and actually this movie starts with a disclaimer as well, based on true events.
Oh, it does, yeah.
So yeah, they kept that going.
That was really surprising when I saw that.
That you stood up in the air.
I stood up the whole time.
So then Frank says, well, let's go look at the dead bodies downstairs.
Yeah.
And so they walk down, and he shows them this barrel.
Wait. How does he explain why they have the bodies in the basement anyway? Like,
so
why do we have the Night of the Living Dead corpses?
When it happened in real life, Night of the Living Dead in Pittsburgh,
yeah,
right? The government went there and kind of quelled it. Then they took some of the bodies, put them in barrels, and were supposed to ship them back to the government for testing or whatever. Yeah. And I think that actually comes into play later on in part 3. I never saw part 2, but I did see part 3.
Do they make sequels?
Oh, yeah. There's 3 other sequels of Return of the Living Dead.
O'Bannon?
No. No, I don't think there's any continuation of characters. I could be wrong. I've only seen the 3rd one, but from what I was reading, I don't think so.
Okay.
But so the government was shipping them back to, is supposed to go back to, some army base, but a small set of 4 or 5 made it through clerical error. Made it to the Darrow Chemical Company.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. And then, so those are the barrels that Frank shows Freddy downstairs.
Yeah.
And so Freddy's like, oh, are we safe down here?
Yeah.
And Frank's like, yeah, these are made by the U.S. government. Just slaps it. And then it explodes with chemicals going in the air.
The zombie gas.
And then the music comes in.
Yeah.
So that whole scene from the beginning to this is one of the most, or actually up until when the music ends, right, is one of the best horror intros in a movie.
I would say so.
It's so much fun. So they pass out, and then we get a close-up of that glass where we see the zombie in there.
Yeah, the little zombie boy.
And then because he's been exposed to the air, his body melts.
Yeah, that would happen to any dead body that's been confined. That's what happens to mummies once you unwrap the toilet paper.
Isn't there a mummy also in your new upcoming book? Is that what's going to happen to it?
Spoiler. That's the end of the book. But like you do read about cases of like bodies that have been like mummified because of some type of it, like environment thing, and when they get exposed to like oxygen, they just kind of like melt into themselves.
Yeah,
it's really fucking crazy to think about. Bodies are odd.
And this scene in particular was cool because it was just wax over a skull, and they heated it up so that it all melted. It was a real cool effect. And that glass breaking, it wasn't supposed to break.
Oh, yeah?
It just got so hot in there that the glass broke, and it was a really cool effect.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. This is where we meet the gang, right? And I love this 80s punk aesthetic that they got going on. Yeah. We meet Scuzz, Tina, Trash, Beverly, Suicide, and Chuck.
Was it Chuck?
Yeah,
I love that two of them are just Tina and Chuck, but everybody else is like what? Tina, Scuzz, Jizz Boy, or something.
Scuzz, Trash,
Suicide. My question is.
Oh, and Spider. I don't have Spider in here.
Well, someone named Spider as well. I think Spider is the one who has the big mohawk.
No, Spider is played by Miguel Nunez.
Okay. My question about this is, I have lots of questions, and my question is. Are they deciding the names, or do they get selected? Is it like, again, to bring it back to your favorite filmmaker, in Reservoir Dogs by Quentin Tarantino, they don't.
I'm going to cut all of this out.
No, you'll not. They don't get to pick. Oh, I want to be Mr. Pink. They get assigned those names.
Yeah.
So when you're a punk in the '80s, does someone assign you a cool name?
Well, I got a cool name when I was hanging out with my club-going crowd.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Can I guess it?
Go for it.
Can you give me clues?
We actually see one in this movie. So it's an object that we see in this movie.
It's an object.
Later in this movie. And it plays a big part.
Nuke?
No.
Missile?
I would love if my name was Nuke. No, but you're on the right path.
I don't know what.
Tank.
Yeah.
I actually have a tattoo here.
I should have guessed it. It's in like your fucking name on social media.
Yeah, that's right. Wow. So I think it just comes out of, for me, I was hanging around a group of friends who all had nicknames from childhood or whatever.
Yeah.
And then when I started coming around, they're like, we can't just call you Miguel. So we need to give you a nickname. So they just gave me a nickname.
I never had nicknames like with friends for reasons I already talked about. But like my family gave me nicknames. That'll just insulting now. The main one was Tomato.
Tomato?
Yeah, because I get bright orange and I'm round.
Well, that's loving.
My mom would call me Ditto a lot because same name as my dad. Ditto, okay. Ditto.
Yeah.
Also Wooji, which is a name my brother came up with, but he didn't know what it meant. And no one knows what it meant, but it just kind of stuck for a while.
Yeah. Now
I'm just called Little Max.
Because of Big Macs.
Yeah.
Okay. Wooji. I
don't know what the fuck it means.
How's that spelled?
He never spelled it. I imagine Woogie.
Okay. My wife, Hillary, her younger sister, Hillary's 4 years older than her younger sister. When her parents were pregnant, Hillary said that she's going to kidnap the baby and leave it in a field.
Okay.
And they were so scared of that because they lived out in Wisconsin.
Did she?
Rural Wisconsin. No. So they didn't want her to do that. I mean,
yeah.
I'm sure it never would have happened, but they're like, well, you can help name the baby.
Okay.
And so Hillary's, I forget what the other nickname that was in the running, but the nickname they came up with was Sunleaf.
Sunleaf.
And that's her name. That's what she's known by. Her real name is Alexandra, but everybody calls her Sunleaf.
Okay.
And she's like almost mid-30s now, and she's last I heard she was going through the process of legally changing it to Sunleaf.
That's great.
I actually know somebody named Spider, so there we go.
What do you mean?
I know a friend of mine. His name is Spider. So you're saying about nicknames and all that. He got his nickname because he's tall and gangly, and they call him Spider.
Wow.
So we're done with the opening credits. Then we can see this scene of like a general or a colonel.
Yeah, my memory isn't so clear about this scene. I recall seeing this military government man walking into a place, and I believe it's his wife, and she's like, "I made your favorite lamb chops," and he's like, "I've had those for lunch already, woman." And she goes,
the look on her face is like of disappointment and like disgust.
Yeah.
And I liked it because you could tell that there's a relationship there in which they kind of hate each other.
Yeah.
He definitely hates her.
Yeah, anyone who built in the government is gonna kill the spouse.
And he goes, "Christ, Ethel," because he has to have this computer like system that he checks into when he comes home.
Yeah.
He kind of like logs in or calls in and says, I'm home now. I'll be here the rest of the night.
Those are the shittiest jobs where you have to be like on call 24/7.
Yeah, that sucks.
He must get paid a lot.
Yeah. So, but to be fair, we'll find out later that he's been doing this for years and he's only gotten one call.
And it turns out to be a pretty easy job. I mean, we can talk about it later now. I guess we can talk about it later.
Yeah.
But his job he doesn't even have to get out of bed.
So he goes to the computer, he signs in or whatever. Then we go back to Bert and Freddy. They wake up after having been knocked out by the gas. They're sick as shit. Bert, the older guy, such good acting because he's coughing and wheezing and like throwing up a little bit. I feel like I'm there and I could smell that terrible smell.
What do you think it smells like?
Yeah, I was about to say, like, I think at that point they said it had been 15 years or something like that.
Yeah.
So that's dead body.
Yeah.
Has been in this container for 15 years, let alone the gas that was in there, like just the original trioxin. Mm-hmm. Then that decomposing body. Oh God.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
I mean, I've been reading a lot about like dead bodies and decomposition and what the smells will like, and the one that everyone says like the most common answer is it just smells like rotting meat. Like if you had a hamburger meat and you left it out in the heat for a long time, that's what it's going to smell like.
Yeah. The acting by Bert, it's just I really enjoyed it.
And that's a man who can cough. Yeah.
And then we see the half dog. So they're like, "What's that noise? What's that noise?" Yeah. Then they walk to the split dog, and this is your favorite, or one of your favorite scenes.
Yeah, because I guess like the zombie gas that's been expelled from the canister, it's gone up and it's hit the split dog.
The ventilation system.
Okay.
That's what it goes up into the ventilation system and goes throughout the whole building, and so that's how it hits the split dogs. It hits the butterflies.
I was kind of disappointed that nothing else happened with those butterflies because they had like these. I mean, you see lots of people. They have them like these fossilized butterflies and insects hanging from walls, and they have that, and like they begin fluttering a bit. But I was hoping we were going to get a scene where they like begin attacking the humans.
Yeah,
that
would be a whole completely different movie.
That would have been.
That would be too comical. That would be farcical. I think
that's like Evil Dead territory almost,
or Scary Movie.
We've never talked about those movies.
No.
Do you like those?
So I grew up when they were coming out.
So did I.
Okay. Well, you were like 6 or so, right?
That was the fan base, though.
Yeah. I mean, you're not too off. I enjoyed the first one. It's the law of diminishing returns. I think after the first one just went down rapidly. But I remember like the first one, again, I haven't seen it probably in over 20 years.
Yeah.
And the second one, same thing since it came out. And then I don't think I saw after a while, the Wayne brothers stopped being in them, I think, or I don't even know.
Those movies, I mean, I won't spend too much time talking about these fucking parody movies, but that one, like, it launched a trend of parody movies that feel like in the early 2000s plagued cinema because you had like Epic Movie, you had
Not Another Teen Movie, which is actually
good. That one's pretty good.
I like that one.
I don't know when that came out.
Like it had to be like late 90s, like 90, 99, something like that.
Yeah, I think that happened before the Skilly movies.
No, that came out after.
Did it? Okay. Well, that one's good. But those were different cradles. Like
there was one that came out like about the Twilight Zone movies, or not Twilight movies, and it called like Vampires Suck.
Yeah.
Which I never see the Twilight movies or that one.
Yeah. I've seen that parody movie. I saw a lot of them because I was a kid and that's when they were coming out. And they were just awful. Even at that age, I was able to tell. These were bad.
Yeah.
But like the kids in my school, they fucking loved them so much.
Really?
They were so popular. And I think like if you look back, there's probably at least 100 movies of like that just made fun of other movies.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, the difference between... I understand that's not what this episode's about. But the difference between, like, those parody movies and, like, the Mel Brooks parody movies is, like, the ones that came out, like, by the Wayans Brothers and whoever the fuck else, they weren't really movies as... They were more like, hey, you remember those other movies that came out in the past? Well, does this make you think of it?
They were more crude, and it was like a scene set up after scene set up, scene after scene set up. Wasn't too much of a plot other than something ripped directly from Scream.
Yeah, they were like Family Guy episodes almost.
Yeah. But something like Young Frankenstein, which you're talking about, Mel Brooks.
Yeah, I love that movie.
That is satire.
Yeah.
But from a place of love.
Yeah.
Where I think Scary Movie is coming from a place of like ridicule.
It's I think what happened is the internet happened, and with the internet, everyone became a critic, and everyone had to find what was wrong with everything. And that's kind of what's going on with those silly movies. It's like, everything sucks, and Bill Superior for fucking having someone vomit for 12 minutes.
Yeah. I think also it was a different form of going viral. Like, for example, in the original Scary Movie, they had that scene, that stupid scene with the waza. Remember that?
Fucking
and
hell.
that came from the Budweiser commercial. But I think before the internet, you didn't really have any way to go viral other than all your friends doing that.
What you had to get like on a bridge and shoot people on the highway to go viral.
Jesus Christ. I saw that joke happen in Max's mind. His eyes lit up and he couldn't wait to say it.
I couldn't.
So it didn't go viral until you saw it in a movie. So we first saw it in a commercial, and then all your friends started doing it, and then we see it in this movie, and I thought that was kind of cool.
When you said that "what's up" thing, I realized, I do know what it's like to experience PTSD. I had forgotten about that until now, and it was all over school or all over anything.
And now you're just going to be doing it to Lori all night.
I can't do it. No, it physically pains me to listen to you do that. Please don't do it.
I still do that with my dad, who is like 73 or whatever. Still does that to me sometimes. He'll just call me and he's like, "What's up?" I'm like, "Hey, Dad."
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So we see the half dog. Frank, the Clue Gallagher who plays Frank, is such a ham. Right, because he's over the top with it. He's like, "Oh my god!" So he's like, "What are we gonna do?" This is one of my favorite scenes. He goes, "What are we gonna do?" He's like breaking down. "What are we gonna? We're gonna call Bert." And he like sits down at his desk and he takes a drink and he smooths himself a little bit and then he calls the boss man.
Yeah.
And then we switch to the cemetery.
Before we switch to that, I have a few comments about this scene.
Yeah, good.
I'm really impressed with his sweat stains on his own pits.
The pit stains.
I've always wanted to be able to sweat like that. I sweat a lot, but
you wanted to be able to do that.
It seems manly. I'm always trying to look for new ways to look manly.
Yeah. Instead, you just sweat from your nipples.
It just goes on to my scrotum.
It looks like lactation.
Yes.
Okay.
A few minutes ago, you called him a ham.
Yeah.
And it sounds like something that people know about. I don't know what you mean by that. So can you explain what ham culture is?
Ham is when you ham it up for the camera. You overact.
Oh. Okay.
So,
why?
I don't know the etymology.
Do hams overact?
No idea, but I think it comes from. Actually, I would be talking out of mass. I don't know where it comes from.
Okay.
What I thought, or what I was going to say is, there's a difference between acting for the stage and acting for the screen.
Yeah.
And for the stage, they say, I've never been in theater, but I've heard multiple people say they say that you have to act for the back row, so the people in the back row can hear you.
Okay.
Right. So it's that talking loud or exaggerated movements.
Yeah.
Right. And here, whereas like for example, Freddy, the younger character, he's kind of subdued.
The young boy.
The young boy. He's kind of, don't say young boy like that. Freddy, he's subdued and he's kind of like taking everything with a grain of salt, kind of listening. Whereas Frank is like anxious and he's so nervous and he's crying and he's hamming it up. That's what it's called. I don't know where that comes from.
I don't know. I have never heard anyone say that.
You've also you did not know earlier today what what or who Baphomet was.
That's true.
So I had to explain.
Did he ham it up?
I would say Baphomet hams it up a little bit.
Did you guys say he was like a demon in pornography? The more I think about it, I think I'm kind of a ham in just like everyday life. I really do like exaggerated movements. I talk like I'm talking to the back of a crowd.
Yeah, so you're a ham. I'd tell you see you as a ham.
All right, that's okay. But yeah, I love his oval reactions. I think it's fun.
Yeah, I enjoy him. He's one of my favorite parts of the movie. And so we go to... So before we didn't say that the gang was all waiting for Freddy to get off of work. So they went out to... They drove to Unita.
Yeah, because supposedly Freddy is like... He knows where the good penalty spots are.
Right.
Right. And they're also kind of mad that he has a job. I didn't write it down because I don't take notes.
You're a guest on the podcast.
But they were talking about like how, Freddy has a job, and someone in the back seat of the vehicle they have was driving around there and goes, "He got a job? What a dick." Something like that is the line. I loved it. Just these punks driving around, just pissed that their friend has a job, so now they have to wait till 10 p.m. for them to clock out.
In this beat up, Rambler.
Is that what it is?
Do you know what a Rambler is?
Yeah, because
Rambler isn't a specific car.
There's a line in a Quentin Tarantino movie where they say, Ramblers, let's get rambling. I don't know, maybe it is.
And that's getting cut out as well. Any mention of Tarantino's getting cut out. I'm telling you that right now. This is not the Tarantino podcast, okay? So they're waiting for Freddy to get off. So right next to the Unita Medical Supply, there's... What is the name of the cemetery? Do you remember?
Yeah, Resurrection Cemetery, which is like asking for bad news.
Right.
It's like getting... I should have had an example in mind. It's like opening a fast food restaurant called Choke on Them. I don't know.
You're really good with...
Thank you.
Look at it, just like me. So they break into the cemetery.
Yeah.
And then they're waiting for Freddy to get off. And this is when we cut to Trash, who's played by Linnea Quigley. Mm-hmm. And she starts going off on this, do you ever fantasize about getting killed? And she's asking Spider, who's played by Miguel Nunez, and he's like, no, I try not to think about death too much. And then she goes off on this whole, I fantasize about being eaten by old men, like grabbing at me. We're like, oh, okay, foreshadowing. Right.
Oh, shit.
Max!
I'm slow.
So that ends up happening to her later. Obviously, if you haven't seen this movie, you should not be listening to this podcast.
I saw it. Before we began talking, we watched it. Do you fantasize about being killed?
No.
For the sake of this podcast, the answer is yes. And so, what would be a cruel way that you would fantasize about dying?
You know what? That's not true. I have fantasized about dying as a hero. So, saving somebody's life.
Okay.
Like in a bank robbery or some shit like that.
So you would be the guy to step up and immediately
not
get shot?
Yeah. It'd be like, please, sir, release the pregnant woman and her child. I'll take her place. Yeah. And then I end up getting killed. But my name goes down in history.
Yeah.
That's some lame stuff, huh?
I've fantasized about dying a lot. When I think about how I'm going to die, I try to be realistic.
Okay.
I know I'm really clumsy. I fall a lot, and I just run into things. My time's going to be up eventually. I mean, right? I can only fall so many times without falling in the traffic.
How do you fall? Just around your house?
Around my house, going places. I trip a lot. I'll just not realize there's a step, and I'll fall down with something.
Okay.
I mean, all my life I've been really clumsy. There's a traumatic memory from childhood when I was in Little League. And I was on the bench, and it was the last inning, and we were ahead by 1, and the other team was batting, and the bases were loaded, and we had 2 outs, and they called me up to pitch.
Oh my god!
So I went up. I was everyone was chilling my name. I'm gonna strike this fucker out and I'm gonna win. And I tripped on the mound, and my pants fell down.
Oh my god!
Everything went down, and this little fat boy just rolled down the mound with his tiny little boy penis and buttocks.
Oh my god!
And then the crowd was definitely just dead silent. And I'm laying there with my ass facing the sun. I just get up. put my pants up, and it's time to pitch, guys.
Oh my god.
So things like that have happened my whole life.
Okay. Are you basically like Martin Prince from The Simpsons?
Kind of.
Or Otto, the German exchange student from Simpsons?
Does he trip a lot?
He does.
Maybe.
He's always covered in chocolate.
I
pictured you covered in chocolate.
I don't like chocolate that much, so no.
All right. That sounds terrible, Max. I'm sorry that happened to you.
Yeah, if the good ending to that story is I struck the Pilsen out.
You did?
I did.
Nothing else matters.
No, I mean, the entire Little League Stadium saw me naked.
Okay, a little bit of that matters.
Technically, they all should be arrested.
That's why
Especially the guy who was masturbating. Cool. That was definitely uncalled for. I've never looked at my dad the same.
Moment of silence here. Speaking of Little League stories, I actually similar situation, not bottom of the ninth, and I didn't fall.
Bottom of the sixth. If you did Little League.
That's right.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Amateur.
It was I was going up against my brother. My brother's 2 years older than me.
Yeah.
And we were on different teams, and bases were loaded, and he was trying to strike me out, except I got the hit and won the game for us.
That's how the League of Their Own ended.
Oh, shit. My life is League of Their Own. Wait, did I just make that? No. That definitely happened to me because me and my brother still talk about it to this day. How do we start talking about that?
How I would die. I was giving you an example of how I'm clumsy.
Yes.
Good example. I mean, look at my wrist. Do you see this?
Yeah.
This happened because I was trying to move a knight and shining armor statue at my at a previous job, and I just grabbed it wrong, and it just slit my wrist open.
Jesus. It was an actual sword?
It was a shield.
Okay.
Do you see this?
Wow, that is really high up on your thigh, Max. But yes, I guess.
So I realized
we are in an enclosed room.
I realized this is a podcast, and when I said, "Can you see this?" No one knows what I'm talking about. But my kneecap is a little skull, and that happened.
That is not on your kneecap, sir. That is up your thigh. That is up your thigh.
What happened was I cut down a bush in front of the house that you in right now with the axe. And I was really proud, and my family, they went to do something, they drove up, and as they were driving up, I had just finished, so to like brag, I put my leg on I put my foot on top of the stump, and I went to pose, and as I posed, I casually just like lowered my arm down, and I just fucking drove the axe into my knee, or my scrotum, as you say. And
your upper thigh.
So they'll see me, and I just lift my leg up, and what they see is I just stab myself. Then I have to go to the hospital and get stitches.
Oh my god.
So when I say I'm going to die from being clumsy, I'm not joking.
Okay. Now, I don't think of how I would die. However, my wife does think about that a lot.
That's terrifying.
And she tells me all the time. One time I was at work, and I just got this random message, and it said, because she has dreams about me dying, and I got this message, "You died again today." I was like, "Excuse me?" And I said, "Okay, well, this is going to be evidence now in case I ever come up missing."
Yeah.
But she has dreams in which I die all the time, so... Yeah, but I don't generally like to think about myself dying.
Well, what happens in the dreams?
I think so. I used to have a lot of problems with I don't know how to say like police. Yeah, I would get arrested a lot.
Yeah,
and so she thought that I would get, I don't know, like shot by the police or something like that. You know, I actually had. Oh, you know what? Memory. I had this recurring dream when I was a teenager that I was going to die before I hit 25.
Yeah.
And I met my wife before I turned 25, and I would tell her, you know, don't get too connected or too close to me because I'm going to die before I turn 25.
Yeah.
It didn't happen, luckily, but I don't know where that came from.
I always told my parents, my mom and my dad, at a really young age, I would die when I was 27 because it was the 27 Club. With Kurt Cobain and Hendrix, they all died at 27. It's a big thing. It's like a conspiracy. Like all these famous musicians died at 27.
I wasn't aware of that.
And yeah, look it up sometimes. It's a whole Wikipedia page.
Yeah.
And I'm like 11, telling them like I'm gonna join this at 27 Club, and I turned 27 last year, and I was like, I called my mom. I was like, this is it. This is the yield, baby. But I recently turned 28, so
You made it.
I lied.
But you were in a pretty bad car accident in Dallas, but you were 26 at the time?
I was 26, yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
You almost made it. Should have tried harder.
Although, for those who listen to my podcast, Ghoulish, I actually did die at 27 because that episode 100 in which I do die came out one day before my birthday.
Which is
On
what?
Which is the movie that we're supposed to be talking about takes place.
Yeah.
So, the beginning of the movie.
So those also who don't know, I have been a guest on Max's podcast, Ghoulish. And the episode we did went almost 4 hours.
Was that true? I thought
Yeah.
it was like 2.5.
It was. I thought it was over 3 hours.
It's possible.
Yeah, I think we recorded a lot, and then you cut down a lot. But so we'll tend to talk, and I'm gonna have to cut down a lot of this. Probably.
Leave everything.
So going back to the movie, Linnea, I was gonna say, but Trash has her whole getting eaten by men alive speech thing, and then she does her famous naked dance on top of
A grave
yeah,
stone?
tomb, yeah.
Well, those called when they're just like protruding from the earth. It's like a mausoleum or something.
Yeah, something like that, or mausoleum you walk into.
Oh,
But
a tomb.
yeah, let's go with that.
A tomb.
And she gets on top of it and strips naked.
Yeah.
And then I feel so bad for her because once she gets naked, she's naked for the whole movie,
Rest of the
which
movie.
sucks. Because can you imagine one of your actors being like, well, that'd be weird because they're a family, but like having to be naked for the whole time that they were shooting. How long was your shoot?
18 days.
18 days. So probably it would have been like 15 days of shoot, just always having to be
Yeah, and she talked about in one of the back special featurettes how she hated it because it was fucking freezing doing this in California at night.
in the rain.
In the rain.
Yeah.
And that sucks. And I honestly don't think it was necessary to the movie.
Oh, not at all.
No.
I love 80s horror. Like, it's my favorite genre.
Yeah.
One of the things I'm glad that has kind of worked its way out of horror movies
Yeah.
is the gratuitous sex or nudity. Yeah.
Yeah. I do miss sex in movies.
Really?
A certain type of movie. It's not a horror movie. But I miss the erotic crime movies of the 90s. Like The Last Seduction and Body Heat.
Okay.
But that's a different type of thing.
Would that be like Blue Velvet as well?
If you find that erotic.
I don't know. I don't remember.
I've
only seen it once.
I don't think Blue Velvet is an erotic movie because it's just
Were there sex scenes in it? I don't
there's
know.
sex scenes in it, but they're really unsettling sex scenes.
Oh, okay.
So I do think. I mean, I could talk about Blue Velvet a long time. It's one of my favorite movies.
Uh-huh.
There's sex in it, but it's really disturbing sex.
Okay.
And I think it's really necessary to the movie to be in it.
Uh-huh.
But as opposed to like the Return of the Living Dead, it doesn't really affect anything.
Right.
Besides just to give someone a reason to complain about not having clothes.
Yeah.
And also, it gives only teenagers a reason to watch the movie, I guess.
Well, Dan O'Bannon has said in interviews that he specifically, I mean, obviously, but he said it that he specifically put the nudity scene in there for men, for boys who are going to come to the movie. But then when he started watch, because remember this is the first movie he directed.
Yeah.
When he started seeing audiences showing up to his movie, half of the audiences were women. Mm-hmm. And he's like, well, I could have just as equally put in male nudity in here as well. And he's like, if I ever had the chance, I wouldn't make the mistake again.
I try to think about that from like the perspective of a director or a writer, whoever creates the movie. It's really uncomfortable, I think, because talking from my own experience of my only movie I've gotten made, there is a little bit of nudity in the movie, and I didn't think about that. There's a flashback scene where someone's doing a spell, and both of them are nude doing it, although nothing is shown on screen.
Okay.
Just like above stuff.
Gotcha.
And once I realized, like, during the pre-production of the movie, like, oh, wait, people are going to have actually have to get naked. I was like, hey, to the director, like, maybe we should change this a bit because it's kind of an odd thing to ask somebody. Even though there's like decades of movies where people just get naked, I suddenly thought, I don't know if we need to do this. But he was like, actually, I think it gives a better vibe for the movie. And he was right, because they do a spell that's really fucking intimate.
Yeah.
And I think it does help. But, yeah, I think if I go to make another movie, I think I'll try to avoid...
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to be the director who's like, okay, now get naked.
And I think the way that they did it, Linnea Quigley, who played Trash in this, was kind of bogus, because walking into a movie knowing you're going to be doing nudity is fine, right? As long as consenting adults and all that sort of stuff. She knew she was doing it, and she had a history. Linnea Quigley in the 80s showed her her breasts a lot in 80s movies. I think she's even said in interviews in the past that, you know, you're paying, as long as you're paying, I got no problem with it. But what they did here is they had her naked, and she had a full pubic, like natural pubic region. Yeah. And when the producer came on the set and they were filming that scene, he was like, Jesus Christ, we can't show that. So they made her shave. So she shaved, and then they saw her doing the scene, and he's like, holy crap, you can see everything. So then they made her go and get a fake pubic hair patch. Yeah. For, you know, so anytime that she, and I think they said in the...
she talked about having the thing glued to her. Yeah. And, like, she would have to have someone help her whenever she had to pee. And, like, all this stuff is like, what is this sylving to the movie, this comedy you've made? Yeah. So,
but it's an iconic scene in horror history. Yeah. And you can understand why, but I'm glad that, as far as, you know, I don't watch too much new horror. I tend to, like, watch a lot of old stuff. But from the new stuff that I've seen, there hasn't really been that stuff.
Do you think a big difference nowadays in movies that I don't think was really common back then is anytime there's like a nudity thing or anything sex related, it's not mandatory right now, but it's more common now, and it should be mandatory, is they have an intimacy coordinator on set whose only job is to make sure the cast is comfortable the whole time.
Okay, that's
and
cool.
If anything is like out of line, all they have to do is talk to the intimacy coordinator, and they fix it.
That's cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good thing.
Did they have that on your set?
We had it on my movie, yeah.
Okay, that's really cool. So Bert shows up, and, you know, he's angry, calls him an idiot. He tries to clean up the situation. He's like, what did you guys do? They kind of explain to him what happened, and then they ask, how do you kill something that's already dead? So...
Well, So they do know that a body is reanimated at this point.
Yeah, so they heard the noise. So, you know, they saw the split dogs. Yeah. They saw the butterflies, and then they heard the body that was in the ice chest or whatever trying to come out.
The yellow man.
So they assumed.
Yeah, they have it locked. They haven't opened it.
Right.
Yeah.
And then Bert is like, are you sure that there's a dead body in there? Frank's like, well, why don't you go check? And it's like, no, I'll take your word for that. Yeah, and like, and don't they like talk about the movie then? Like, well, didn't they just destroy the brain? Yeah, exactly. So then Bert gives Frank a pickaxe. He's like, all right, we're going to open this lock, and you're going to kill it. And Frank, I love him to death. Oh, he's just crying the whole time. He's hamming it up. Yeah, hamming it up, exactly. That's exactly how you would use it. If I see that word or that phrase in your book.
My new book, Ham It Up. Ham radio.
So then Bert gives Freddy. He tells Freddy.
The young boy.
Yeah, the young boy. He gives him the combination to lock. They open it up. The zombie attacks.
It's so funny because they set it up with the guy with the axe. He's ready to hit him. The door opens. The yellow zombie guy, he runs out, doesn't even pay attention to Frank. Goes directly to the boss, and just fucking tackles him. It's so hilarious.
And they have to take the naked zombie off of their boss, they pin him to the ground, and then they put the pickaxe right into his head.
There's some great practical effects in this scene, man. Just like watching that pickaxe go into his head.
Because it's forced perspective, right? Yeah. So you're seeing it from a side view, and then you see what it looks like it goes to his head, but it's actually past the guy's head.
Is that what's going on?
Yeah.
I just assumed it was it's like a dummy they made because the body isn't moving when they stab him.
Right.
So that's why I assumed it wasn't.
Oh,
the guy.
okay. What I assumed was they had that forced perspective, and they actually went into the guy's head behind him. And
That makes sense,
else, yeah.
possibly.
But that could also be dangerous as well. And then a really cool practical effect, speaking of which, is they hold him down and they saw off his head.
Yeah.
And you can actually hear his vocal cords ripping as they're doing it. It's amazing. I love that shot.
Yeah, and this is when we kind of subvert from the mythos created by the Night of the Living Dead, because destroying the brain doesn't do anything in this movie.
No.
They cut his head off, and then the body just continues running around like a chicken without his head.
Yeah. Yeah. I think for as much as I love George Romero and all the Dead movies, well, the trilogy, original trilogy anyway, you can kill these zombies. Or you can kill Romero zombies.
Yeah.
These zombies, you can't kill them. Eventually, they win by attrition, right? Because they just kill everybody and they just keep going. Although the rules aren't clear, because some zombies, or some people who are dead, return back to life, and some don't.
Yeah, I don't know. It wasn't that clear.
Yeah.
Those who did die, won't they? I mean, who all died and came back? Besides the two employees of this building.
Linnea Quigley, Trash comes back.
Okay. Well, the thing is, the difference here is she dies, but she's also has been rained on by that
acid rain,
the ashes.
Yeah.
So I think maybe if you have that stuff in you already, and then you get killed, then you come back.
Okay.
But like some of the cops, they don't come back.
The paramedics don't come back.
But they also don't have that stuff on them.
Well, they were out in the rain as well.
No, they showed up after the rain stopped.
Right.
So I think that might be it.
Okay. And then the bodies that are reanimated, just the corpses?
Hmm?
The corpses, the dead people.
In the graveyard?
Yeah, in the graveyard. Why do they come back?
Because it rains on them.
Okay, so it's just the rain that reanimates you?
Well, yeah, I mean, skipping ahead a bit, they kill this yellow man, and later on they put him in the crematorium, and his body becomes ash that floats up into the sky, and the rain hits that ash and sends his fucking diseased, reanimated body into the ground.
Yeah.
So I think it's the stuff that he's infected in is going up into the sky, and it's spreading the infection.
So it's not the zombie bite?
No, I don't think the zombie bite has anything to do with it.
Okay. All right, so then that's where we divert dramatically from the Romero zombies. And maybe that's why they are able to retain speech.
Yeah.
And they're able to retain mobility because they're fast zombies.
Yeah.
Okay. That's great. I hadn't even thought about that.
Boy, see this movie once. Catch up.
So then Bert's big idea is that Ernie, across the street, Bert and Ernie, across the street, who owns a crematorium, he's still there the night, and Bert wants to take the body over there and get them burned up. Yeah. So now we're introduced to Ernie, and I want to see if you found the subtext with Ernie.
The subtext?
The subtext where he's a Nazi.
No.
Yeah. So when we first were introduced to him, he is dissecting a body.
Yeah.
He's doing an autopsy, or no, I guess he's just dissecting the body.
Before we go into this, I will say he was my favorite kill until.
Well, that makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
So we're introduced to him. He's dissecting a body, and then when he's listening to like a German Panzer music, like.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's that. Then when Ernie walks in and when Bert walks in and surprises Ernie pulls his strap, and it's a German, like a Ruger.
Yeah.
Then, and he's got the German last name.
He has that swastika tattoo, so that was unrelated.
He has a picture, a caricature of Adolf Hitler.
Does he?
In the back on one of his walls.
I don't think I noticed that.
Yeah, I mean it's it wasn't. It was sprinkled throughout.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so his backstory, what the director said, is that he was a Nazi who fled Germany and made a new life here in America, and he gets his kicks off. Oh, and also he works in a crematorium.
He gets his kicks off doing what?
Burning bodies in a crematorium.
I thought you were going to say something sexual.
No.
Related.
Maybe it is a sexual kick. We don't know.
I talked to someone on my podcast not too long ago who built at a funeral home. I asked him if anyone ever came and asked, like, hey, I'll give you $5 if I can fuck a body. He didn't like that question.
He didn't like it?
No, he was like, this doesn't happen.
Next question. Well, especially not for $5. So, yeah.
So he's a Nazi.
Yeah, he's a Nazi.
Interesting.
And I just want to notice I just want to ask if you noticed that Freddy's jacket, the young guy,
the young boy,
is wearing the red jacket. It says "fuck you."
No, I didn't notice that.
It's not shown very often. And then while they were filming the movie, they realized if we sell the TV rights, they won't be able to use any of the scenes.
Never play, yeah.
So they made a second version, and the TV, the jacket and the back just said TV version.
So they filmed it to each. So they released 2 cuts.
They released 2 cuts, and they did the shot. They would shoot one for TV and one for film.
Why not just come up with a new jacket? It's so much such
one
a
that
waste.
Doesn't say anything. I think they probably had already shot the scenes for the original
Maybe.
one.
TV version would be great, even for the movie one.
Yeah.
Because they'd be like, what the fuck is that about?
I would rock a shirt that's a TV version.
Do they sell those? They should.
That'd be pretty awesome.
You should sell them.
Yeah. I would just make it infringe on copyright.
They don't own the phrase TV
version on a red jacket. That's true. All right. So we're going to be partnering with the Ghoulish and PMMP.
That was too many M's.
PMM.
Those 2 M's. PMM.
We'll be partnering with Max's company to bring you these jackets. So he tells Ernie that these are rabid weasels, and Ernie's not buying it at all. And he asks, "You want to burn them?"
Yeah.
Right. Let me at least take them outside and shoot them. Like, that's not any more.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna fucking set these alive animals on fire.
Let me kill them first. That's more
shooting
humane.
them in the face. Yeah, is way more humane than just setting them on fire. At least a bullet is a quick escape from this awful existence we live.
Yeah. So the owner says, we can't let you see them. I'm just gonna be honest with you. He opens up the bag and one of the arms falls out.
Yeah.
And grabs Ernie's pants and just starts ripping them.
It rips a big chunk of his pants off. And I thought for a second he had like those stripping breakaway pants on, because that's how it looked once it came off.
Or like the pants you wore in Little League that just fall off.
You know, I let you come to my house.
That's right. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. So now Ernie understands what's happening, and he says, "Okay, I'll do this for you, but you're gonna owe me big."
Yeah.
Here we go back to the cemetery, and Tina, who is the girlfriend of Freddy, starts walking towards Unita because she's supposed to be meeting him at 10 o'clock. Question I have for you: have you ever hung out in a cemetery?
I when I was going to that criminal school, it was right next to a funeral home and a cemetery. And sometimes on my lunch break, I would go to the funeral home, and I would have my like a little Chromebook type of thing with me. It wasn't a Chromebook, but something like that. It was a small laptop, and I would write like short stories in the lobby.
Uh-huh.
So that to me is a really funny, almost like unbelievable origin story to someone who writes horror movies now. It's like, oh yeah, I would write fiction in a funeral home at lunch in high school. But I would also just kind of walk around the cemetery at lunch, just like trying to pass time. And I don't have anything else to add. I mean, I never found anything spooky.
Yeah.
It was just something to do. But like I always see like in movies, like let's go fuck on that guy's grave. So I wondered maybe. I mean, I know you have a big history of clubbing and doing cool things like from movies.
I have a couple cemetery stories. One, when I was living in, I keep saying Chicago. When I was living back home in Chicago, I lived kind of in between my girlfriend's house and my house. In between, there was a cemetery.
Yeah.
And so I would drive through the cemetery to cut through it.
Okay, is that illegal?
I don't know if it is or not, but it was definitely not a street.
Oh, okay.
But police would regularly patrol it to make sure if you weren't in there. But I would do that, and I always felt bad about that.
Why?
I don't know.
You're an atheist, you said.
No, I wasn't an atheist then.
Oh, okay.
Don't try to call me on my bullshit. My other story was that my wife and I went to Cuba about 3 years ago.
Wow.
And there is a really, I think it's called the Necropolis in Havana. And it's this really old cemetery.
Yeah.
And it's got like, I think it's full now, so nobody else is buried there. But it's got like these generals and these people from the 1700s and the 1800s that are buried there, and then all the rich families from Havana or from Cuba, and they have those mausoleums there. Mm-hmm. I think the soil is too wet to be underground, so everything's buried up top, kind of like in Louisiana as well. And you can go in there and walk around and tour and take pictures of it and all that stuff. And some of them are kept up very well, but some of them are abandoned.
Yeah.
And the glass is broken out of there, and like there's bars in front of them so you can't crawl in. So it was kind of creepy walking through there, but it was a lot of fun.
Creepy.
Yeah. But if you ever go to Cuba, I definitely recommend going there because I really enjoyed it.
I'm never going to Cuba.
No, why not?
I don't have any money.
We saved up for over a year and a half to go to Cuba. Ernie agrees to cremate the body and everything. And then in a bit of foreshadowing as well, I want to see if you caught this here. Frank says, "Oh yeah, well we saw this in the interview afterward." Says, "Some big favor, I could operate that thing."
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't catch on to it until I saw him talk about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, because later on he does use it.
Yeah.
To kill himself.
So again, the soundtrack kicks in when they're burning the bodies, and they think that they've stopped the zombie outbreak. And if they had just left it, if they didn't burn them, if they just buried them, it would have stopped there.
Yeah.
But instead, they burn them, and just like you were saying, the cremation goes everywhere.
The ashes go up.
It starts raining again because that's how weather works.
Yeah.
And then it spreads out all over the cemetery.
I will say at this point, we've just finished my favorite part of the movie.
Which was?
I loved everything between... I mean, I loved the whole movie, but I was really in the zone between opening the door and letting the yellow man out and then destroying his body.
Okay.
I'm a big fan of, like, corpse hijinks. And that was just a lot of fun, I thought.
You're a big fan of just playing with corpses.
Well, I love, like, in a movie old book when, like, someone kills somebody and then they have to, like...
Dispose
of the body, but then it keeps going wrong. And that was like that a bit. Like, I think you see some of that in the Reanimator movie.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. I always find that
Pulp Fiction.
really fascinating. There's a great scene in this movie called Pulp Fiction by Quentin Tarantino. You should check it out.
Yeah. The soundtrack starts up again.
Yeah.
I love the soundtrack. We get this toxic acid rain, which is what you talked about, which apparently reanimates the dead. Poor Linnea Quigley has been naked this whole time.
Oh my god.
And she starts getting rained on, and she's yelling that it's burning. They run to their car and try to take cover in this car, but it's leaking and it's getting all over there. Frank and Freddie are sick now, right? The older guy and the younger guy.
They've gotten quite pale. They're not responding well. They're saying, my stomach hurts, my head's pounding, something's wrong with us. We breathe in that corpse gas, but they don't call it corpse gas. That's what it was.
Yeah.
So they call an ambulance. And this is, I don't know if they begin calling it this now or later on in the movie. My biggest pet peeve in this movie is the fact that they keep calling it a paramedic ambulance.
Paramedic ambulance.
That's so redundant. Just call it a fucking ambulance.
I didn't notice. I just saw that they call them paramedics.
Yeah, they call it a paramedic ambulance so many times in this movie.
Well, the people that are working in it are the paramedics.
Right.
And the ambulance is the actual car that you take them in.
Okay. So you wouldn't go to like a Waffle House and say, "Look, it's a cook diner." The cooks inside are implied. But yeah, paramedic ambulance, redundant. Yeah. You don't need both.
So the gang is chilling in the car and they can hear. I don't know if it's trash. It's like, do you hear that? Do you hear that?
Yeah.
And they're hearing the bodies breaking out of the caskets and they're moaning and groaning.
You know, you see that a lot in movies about reanimation, the corpse like coming out of the grave. I've always thought I would not have the strength or the energy, like to get up. It seems like such a task.
Have you ever, without, you don't have to get too personal, have you ever been to a funeral? Like, where they're burying the body?
No.
Okay. So, my brother passed away 2 years ago, and
Yeah.
this is the first time I've ever been to a funeral. And after they lowered his body into the ground, they placed a large piece of concrete lowered from a crane on top of it.
How is that like a new invention?
No, this was in Las Vegas, Nevada. So I don't know if it's a Nevada rule or whatever.
Yeah.
But they place it on top of it, and then they put the dirt on top of that.
Nevada is notoriously afraid of zombies.
Maybe that's what it is. But when I saw it, I was like, huh. So either we've been lied to our whole life, or what I think actually happened was that Nevada had a zombie outbreak. They squashed it, and then they said, how can we prevent this from happening ever again? Oh, we're going to cover the body in concrete. So there's absolutely no way that a human body can crawl its way, through the casket, then through the concrete.
I haven't watched it. I'm not going to, but Zack Snyder has a zombie movie that just came out that takes place in Vegas.
Army of the Dead.
Yeah, have you seen that?
No, I saw a trailer for it, and I was
It's not for me.
No.
I don't like movies that'll just like, guns are awesome! Let's kill helpless, mindless beings!
America!
But I wonder if that's addressed, so if maybe he didn't know that. And if so, that movie's a lie.
Zack Snyder himself is a lie.
I mean, yeah.
I did like his Dawn of the Dead remake, though.
Me too.
So I can't say anything else. So Beverly has walked to Unita, and she is looking for her boyfriend. She walks downstairs, and she meets Tarman.
Yes.
Who is one of the best horror characters in the history of horror. I
mean,
love Tarman.
It's an EC Comics creature brought to life.
Yeah, exactly. And he comes out of the shadows and he goes, brains.
Live brains. And the one thing I knew about this movie, years ago, I've known this. This is the movie that introduced the idea of zombies staying brains.
Yes.
Because it's always a common misconception that happens in Night of the Living Dead.
Right. I know you knew that of this movie as far as the brains is concerned.
Yeah.
Had you seen Tarman before?
No.
Okay.
So this was my first time seeing him. I loved him.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, it's like an EC Comics thing. It was like a Tales from the Crypt. It was like a creep show guy. I loved it. I've never seen like him in any like clip or photo.
Yeah.
You feel
That's amazing to me. That is so amazing to me.
Yeah, like I want that guy as a little statue. I can put him next to,
I have him.
to my Zodiac killer. What do you have?
I have, I think this toy company called Run Amok or Amok Time or whatever came out with a Tarman statuette or a small little figurine of him that I bought maybe 10, 15 years ago. And I have that in my office.
What's
and it's
his
so
name?
cool.
Is this it?
Yep, that's exactly
Did
it.
you pay $180?
No,
for
I
it?
didn't. I paid when it came out like $40.
God damn it.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I didn't even know he cost that much.
That's what they go for on eBay now.
Yeah, that sucks. But so we're introduced to Tarman, who I absolutely love. The idea of Tarman is disgusting because you know that they didn't put tar in there with him, so all that black stuff, that's his decayed.
My question is, where the fuck did he come from?
He was the zombie that was in that canister.
Oh, yes, from the one that broke loose. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know why I didn't connect that.
Yeah.
I was like, how many bodies do they have in this place?
Oh, you just thought that was a random body.
Yeah.
I got you.
I was like, why do they have a body in the basement? But
no.
That makes sense. Yeah, it's all of his fucking decomposing, like it's... Do you know what it's called, like when your body rots and all the stuff inside of you comes out?
I don't, but I want you to tell me.
The phrase is called a purge fluid.
Purge fluid.
So all of his purge fluids have like leaked out of him and congealed.
For 15, 12 years, whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, man. He looks so great.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, we were watching some of the special features about the man who played him. I don't know his name now, but do you?
I don't remember off the top.
But evidently he's a really skinny man, which was necessary because to make it look like he was just bone. So they put like the skeleton costume like oval him, and then put all the nasty gelatinous goo oval that. And
Tarman was played by Alan Troutman.
yeah, I think he's a puppeteer if I recall.
Yeah, and the way he walks, he just slinks and he's like they were saying that his bones aren't connected.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I've always hated to know about this is that a lot of that glue and gel, and you can actually tell in some of the scenes, he's pushed back. Tarman is pushed back because he's got so much glue or goo on his feet.
Yeah.
And he's just sliding. That stuff, I forget what the name of the chemical is. That stuff is used in like fillings for like jelly donuts.
Oh, god damn it.
To make it firm.
God, I love jelly donuts.
I love jelly donuts too.
God damn it. Have you ever seen it's a type of dancing called I think it's just called animated dancing or animation. But you move just like how he moves in that.
Really?
It's like it's really jagged. It's really much like you'll animate, like you'll reanimate it actually.
Okay.
It's a style of dance. It's really cool, but that's what it reminded me of.
Okay, no,
I think he might have just been doing some of that, but no one's come out and said it.
Okay. Yeah, I've never heard of that.
Yeah.
And he still retains a bit of intelligence because he's using the pulley to try to get the locker open where the girl is hiding. Tina is hiding in. Yeah. So that was kind of cool.
There's some stuff way later on. I'm skipping ahead. Her boyfriend is like yelling Tina. I can help but think of Nightmare on Elm Street because like he's yelling it in the same way almost, like Tina.
Yeah.
I don't know. That was intentional or not. I don't know when the hell Elm Street came out.
I think it was like 83 and this came out 85, something like that. So it definitely came out before.
You know a lot of dates.
I do.
What's the date before my birthday?
July 3rd.
So surprising.
All right, so Nightmare on Elm Street came out in 84. This came out in 85. So the gang runs into Unita. They hear Tina downstairs.
Yeah.
They go down there, and Tarman immediately attacks Suicide.
So I have to talk about something with Suicide that we forgot about that made me laugh so much. There's a scene when they're back in the graveyard, and Suicide is like kind of like self-reflecting a bit. He's like, no one fucking understands me. I'm more than just, this isn't just a costume. This is like a statement. Because he's dressed in like chains and leather jackets. He looks ridiculous.
He's got not a mohawk, but like a tri-hawk or something like that. Like he's shaved along the sides.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Trash's character is really into him, and she's like grinding up on him.
She's practically giving him an over the pants hand job.
Yeah,
as he's like, no one fucking gets me. And then he looks at Trash, and he's like, what's your fucking problem, man? I'm trying to be emotional.
Don't you have respect for the dead?
Yeah,
and like pushes her. You know, it's like, okay, man. He was emo before it was cool.
That's the only scene where I appreciated the fact that she was naked, because it made it so much funnier to me.
Yeah.
But that's like the only time I was like, okay, I understand why this is happening.
But so that was Suicide's big scene, what you were just saying.
Yeah.
And then in this scene, Tarman just takes a chomp out of his skull.
Yeah.
And this practical effect is really great. I like it a lot. Where you could just see, like, you could tell right away that it's fake and all, but the zombie just takes a bite out of it, and it looks amazing.
So I guess something that happens when you become a zombie is you get really good teeth. Because I don't know if you've ever tried to bite someone's head, but that's not what happens.
No, it's not. Maybe all the acid rain has softened up the skin and the skull.
Like a little soft spot like a baby?
Exactly like a baby. So they all run upstairs. Suicide stays downstairs. He's dead, and so does Tarman. The paramedics come, and they basically they take Frank and Freddy's pulse, and they're like, "What the hell?" It's like there's no pulse, there's no heart pressure or heartbeat.
Yeah. And basically, he's still dead.
Yeah. Oh, and their temperature is room temperature. It's 70 degrees.
70 degrees. The full back is all bruised and black because what happens when you die is, however you were laying, whatever you were on, the blood is pulled by gravity to that one spot, and it kind of like becomes a little quagmire of blood.
And they also say a little bit later that rigor mortis is set in for them.
Yeah.
But yeah, then we start to see we flash back to cemetery and we start to see all the zombies coming out.
Yeah.
And they're only buried. Like, I hate, this is one of the things that is a pet peeve in movies. Is when when a body is buried like in 2 feet of dirt, you literally just see them sit up, and that's how they're buried. That's not what happens.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're even buried more than 6 feet. It's like pretty deep in there. So that kind of happens here. Like, zombies are coming up from like a foot of dirt.
It's definitely a trope in cinema where a body just sits up like the Undertaker.
Yeah.
Just like knocking Jill off of them. And realistically, it would be like the head would pop up.
Right. Which, that does happen with the zombie skeleton.
It does.
Where essentially it's just a skeleton, but the eyes haven't rotted away yet.
Yeah.
That's a great effect. I loved it.
I love how just the bones all strong enough to dig through that.
Yeah. Exactly. Even though, and like they were saying, your bones are connected with sinew and tissue. So once that's rotted away, nothing should be holding it together.
Yeah, to be fair, a similar issue is happening in the book I'm reading now. Well, they would obviously not have strength because most of their bodies have decomposed. And my solution to that was, who gives a shit? It's a book.
You're right. So this is where we get the scene where Trash is attacked by the old men, but they're zombies, right?
Yeah.
And they bite her, which was what fantasy was about being killed or eaten alive earlier.
So she predicted it.
Yeah, and once again, she's like running in the rain. She's naked and she falls into a puddle of water.
She talked about in the back. I keep wanting to say Back to the Future, the special features, how the extras who were zombies in that scene were way too rough, and like she almost drowned in the rain puddle because they wouldn't get up.
Yeah, the extras.
Yeah,
they were overzealous.
Can you imagine being an extra in that scene, having to tackle a naked woman? I would be so nervous. I don't think I would do it.
Yeah.
Any naked person, I don't want to, I don't know. I'm too uncomfortable.
Yeah, I think it takes a certain amount of person to want to do that, and that person, it's kind of like with cops.
Yeah.
Like, any person who wants to be a cop probably shouldn't be a cop.
Yeah.
And then the people who don't want to be a cop should be a cop. Yeah. So I kind of think the same way with this. Like, if you're signing up to, like, attack Linnea Quigley, you probably shouldn't get the job.
Yeah. Especially if you specifically say, do I get to attack Linnea Quigley?
Yeah.
If you know by name right now and we're just doing casting, you know too much.
So after Trash is killed, the gang runs to the crematorium. Most of the gang runs to the crematorium. I think 2 people split off. I forget who that is. And then Ernie lets them in. And Chuck and Beverly run to the back to Unita. They're banging on the door, asking for Ernie to let him in. He pulls a gun on them. Are you guys on PCP?
Meth crack!
Like, no, man.
Meanwhile, the paramedics, for some reason, decide to go back to the ambulance during this.
Yeah.
But, like, why?
Oh, they was going to go to get a stretcher. Because they're like, you're
okay.
dead, but we're going to get a stretcher. We're going to get you out of here.
Okay.
Take you to the hospital. They get attacked, right?
Brains eaten. I mean, so many brains get eaten in this movie.
Yeah.
And every one of them looks to me like when you go to some hipster restaurant and get a soup bowl that's made of bread.
I've never had this experience.
Like a Panilla.
Okay. Panera.
Panilla, yeah.
Okay.
I've been to one.
Panera is a hippie restaurant, just to make sure?
A hipster?
Panera is?
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
You don't think so?
I don't think anybody would think so.
Really?
How do you describe a hipster restaurant?
Overpriced. They use bread instead of glass.
I think overpriced is difficult to say because in Austin, everything's overpriced.
Okay.
But I get what you're
Everything
saying.
in Austin is hipster related.
Everything, huh?
Everything.
Even like the Walmarts?
Really hipster related. Except the Waffle House, which doesn't exist.
All right, so the paramedic goes out. He's attacked. The other paramedic is attacked as well, and that's when the zombie screams, brains.
Brains. Yeah, they go out to the paramedic ambulance.
Yeah, exactly.
But there's a great line that I knew about this line, but I didn't know it was from this movie. Well, the zombie gets on the radio in the ambulance, and he says, "Send more paramedics."
Come in, dispatch. Send more paramedics.
I know this line because I published a book by a guy named David James Keaton a while ago called Stealing Propeller Hats from the Dead. It's a collection of zombie fiction, kind of comedic. And he invented a drinking game for the book to promote it. And he called the drinking game Scent Mill Paramedics. And I didn't realize it was a reference to this movie until today.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Now, like how I'm just promoting books I've published. You can get that book, by the way, at perpetualpublishing.com.
PMMP.com.
PPMM pimp.com.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Pillamite's all dead as shit.
Mm-hmm.
The old man with the gun, the Nazi. I'm just gonna call him a Nazi now. The Nazi with the gun. He gets the kids in assaulting them out in PCP.
Right.
And that's when they all regroup, and it's concluded, discovered that outside there were hundreds of fucking zombies.
Yeah, and Tina finally sees Freddy because she's been looking for him, and she's like, "What have you guys done to him? He looks like absolute shit." They decide that Ernie was going to go to the outside to the paramedic ambulance to see if they could use it.
Yeah.
He goes out there and he sees a little person.
My question is that what that's supposed to be? Because I thought it was a man who lost the bottom half of him.
Okay.
That's what I thought it was, but I didn't get a good look.
Yeah. In the commentary, they talk about this actor.
Okay.
If I'm remembering correctly, he was a homeless or unhoused person, and they saw him out and about, and they offered him this position, and he loved it and relished in it. And I think he's done scenes in other movies, horror movies, as the little person.
Okay. In the movie itself, the makeup is so great. I don't think I saw legs. It's why I was.
And he didn't have legs.
Okay.
And he didn't have, so he was handicapped.
Okay, well, that's why, when he's moving, he's kind of bouncing up and down a little bit.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure what that was, but he looked cool.
Yeah, it was a great use. So then Ernie goes back inside, and they close all the windows, and they start boarding everything up.
One of my favorite scenes in any zombie movie is when they go, okay, we got to isolate ourselves now. They begin building stuff up. I love watching, people use handles and stuff, because I don't know how to do that.
Well, even in Night of the Living Dead, it was probably the first time that happens. It's so good. You just see them.
That movie rules. I love that scene so much.
If you were to just make a supercut of all of them, all the scenes of them hammering, it'd probably be at least 10 minutes or something from a substantial part of it.
Let me ask you, do you have the stuff in your house to build up all your windows and dills?
Absolutely.
What would you do? I would have to break my bed or something.
I do have an upstairs office with only one entrance, so I would go up there and demolish the stairs.
How would you demolish them?
I do have hammers and sledgehammers.
All right.
Did you ever read the Zombie Survival Guide by Max Brooks?
Yeah.
Well, that was one of the things he said in there.
All right.
And I always thought that, when I was watching Night of the Living Dead, which is one of my favorite horror movies.
Do you think that's the best one?
I think Romero's trilogy is the best.
I mean, of the three.
Oh, of the three. I really
I love them all. Yeah.
They're so different.
What do you prefer, I guess, is my question.
I like the social commentary in Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah.
The zombies are a little bit all that green color and all that. Mm-hmm. Not the best. Day of the Dead is so dark and so bleak, but I love Bub.
Day's my favorite.
Day's your favorite?
Yeah.
Yeah, every Halloween time I watch Night of the Living Dead. I think that was a movie besides Halloween that really got me into horror movies. So I'm really partial to it.
I didn't grow to love Night of the Living Dead until adulthood, I guess.
Okay.
I think it might have been too slow for me as a kid.
Yeah, I could totally see that. It's more like a newscast or something. It's the black and white color. It just feels like of another world.
I also hated Day of the Dead as a kid.
Really?
Until only recently I revisited it. I was like, oh, this is the best one, at least in my opinion. And I think because the movie's mostly just talking.
Yeah.
And I might have zoned out. But Dawn of the Dead, to me, was always the best when I was a kid. Because there was a lot going on.
Yeah, the helicopter zombie is the best.
Yeah, and plus, to show my age again, a video game called oh fuck, I forget the name. But there was a video game that came out when I was a kid about being in a mall trying to kill zombies.
Oh.
What was that game called? It's a popular game. Like you will dress a guy inside a shopping mall.
I don't think I've ever played it.
It's like a
it's
like
not
a, it's
Plants
like
vs. Zombies.
no, it's like a sandbox game. Dead Rising.
Dead Rising is a movie, yeah. I mean, is a game.
That's
yeah.
it. That's it.
Dead Rising? Okay,
Yeah.
Cool. All right, and then we get this line, which is one of my favorite insults, is dick brain.
Oh yeah, I wanted to bring that up. I
Yeah.
forgot though. If only I had taken notes.
Yeah.
I was gonna call you a dick brain, but I forgot.
Hey, dick brain.
That should be what you call like your fans.
Hey, dick brains. Thanks for joining another episode of My Horror Confessional. So, Bert kind of tells the gang everything that's happening. This is when Ernie notices rigor mortis is setting in for Frank and Freddy. More paramedics show up, and the zombies. It's just round and round of paramedics showing up, zombies killing them. Cops showing up, zombies killing them.
Yeah.
Over and over and over again. Then they start breaking into the crematorium. One bites Scuzz in the skull.
Yeah.
And they're trying to pull him away, but she's like attached to the skull, so they chop her off halfway through. They take that zombie, put her on the
Gurney.
the
Table.
examination room.
But before we talk about that, we should talk about the practical effect that went into the blood that shot out of what's his face's head. They talked about that in the behind the scenes about how O'Bannon was like obsessed with having some type of volcanic eruption of blood at one point in the movie.
Yeah.
And that was the scene. It was cool how they did it too. They had like a hose hooked up to a little button beneath his mohawk. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I love hoses that have blood.
And it came down the side of his body that we didn't see. It was connected to a pool of blood, and they were just squirting it. And they said that the people were special effects and people who weren't on the screen were all wearing raincoats so they wouldn't get splashed with blood.
This is coming out after the beginning of September, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so in my movie, there's a really graphic scene with lots of blood. Where blood just shoots out of someone's stomach. It's like 7 gallons of blood that's used. And something similar was like that. We had a hose going up little pants, up little t-shirt, and like we had a fake stomach, a round little stomach, and it just shot out of that.
So that was practical.
All that was practical, yeah.
Awesome.
It was like 7 gallons of blood.
Who has to clean that up after a shot like that?
We saved that shot till the last day because we knew once the bathroom would be destroyed, and we couldn't use it as like it's going to always look that bloody because it's kind of a hallucination that happens.
Yeah.
So obviously the bathroom can't be that bloody once she comes back to normality. So we did that on the last day, and then they demolished the bathroom.
And then that's when you took your piece of the bathroom?
Yes.
Where do you keep that?
It's in the garage.
Okay.
I'll show you. I'm gonna like
have it framed?
No, I'm gonna take it apart. I'm gonna use it. I'm gonna sell it when the movie comes out. I'm doing a limited edition hardcover of the book.
Okay.
And a piece of the bathroom will go with that.
That's pretty cool. That's a good idea.
You're
a businessman.
I think if I can take it apart the right way, they will be like drink coastals.
Because the tiles are that big?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll show you after this if we ever finish.
Yeah, we're at 2:30 right now. One thing that reminds me of is, the Evil Dead cabin? Mm-hmm. They shot it out in the middle of nowhere. There's no roads leading out to it. And so after years, it was abandoned.
Yeah.
And then it fell down. And people have slowly been taking pieces of it.
Yeah.
And I know a person on Twitter who found it. And they're like, yeah, I'm going to take a big chunk home. And I was like, dude, you could sell that. Take it apart piece by piece. And just sell it from the original Evil Dead cabin.
Well, the cabin doesn't exist now.
Right. It
was destroyed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's still all the wood's still there.
I guess I never thought about that. They just left it, huh?
Yeah, they just left it there.
Man, that's something I miss about Indiana, is the fact that you just had woods you can go and hang out with. And in my limited experience in Texas, is everything's owned, and there's big fences, and you can't go anywhere.
Yeah, you do take a lot of walks, right? You just take random walks. Is it just around here?
Yeah, around town.
So they impale this half zombie. They put it on the examination room, and then Ernie starts asking her questions. And this is one of the creepiest scenes that I know of. And it's in a horror comedy, but it's still fucking creepy.
Yeah.
He asks, why do you eat people? And she says, not people, brains.
Yeah.
He said, why? The pain of being dead. In a creepier way than that. And then
so sad.
I can feel myself rot. It makes the pain go away. It's like, Jesus Christ.
I recall when she said, I can feel myself rot, you shouted, me too! Or something.
I said same.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I apologize for
Yeah,
misquoting
the joke is same.
It means the same thing.
Yeah, but the joke is same.
Like, if he said hashtag me too, that would be like, I relate. It would be the same thing as hashtag same.
I'm just going to let you keep talking.
Go ahead.
And then the special effects here are awesome.
I was watching that, trying to decide how they could have done this. And maybe you know the facts, but my best guess is because she's moving a lot on this table, but she has a long heel, and I believe, my suspicion is underneath the little head on the table is probably an open space, and someone's using like a puppeteering thing that make them move around.
Yeah, it's animatronics.
So it's like one of those Freddy Cheese guys or something.
Chuck E. Cheese. It's like Freddy Cheese.
I mixed.
You're thinking of Five Nights at Freddy's and
yeah.
Chuck E. Cheese? Yeah, okay. And then the special effects were done by Tony Gardner, who would go on to do Lost Boys and Nightbreed. So I think he did a real amazing job here with that. Trash comes back as a zombie and attacks the homeless man. She is again still naked.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool scene. We have this homeless man. Is that the only scene he's in, or is he in a different scene?
I think that was the only scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have this homeless man just walking down the street in front of a cemetery, and then Trash, a.k.a. Linnea Quigley, this is like a big intro as a zombie, basically. She's strutting along. She has like a theme song as well, which I thought was pretty funny.
She does.
And she's
walking in the fog.
Yeah. And, all the stuff I've said about how she shouldn't be naked, she looks really cool naked as a zombie. There's something about how pale the rest of her flesh is compared to how red her hair is.
Yeah.
It looks really neat on film.
Yeah. And then they also had her in a mouth prosthetic.
Yeah.
And I think from what I remember in the commentary, it looked really bad if you shot it for a long time.
She's quick, yeah.
Yeah, so all you do is see quick, and it doesn't move.
Yeah.
So you just see her like about to attack, but it
Yeah.
still looks cool.
Yeah. I thought that was a really cool scene.
Yeah.
I was maybe a little bit disappointed we don't have more zombie Trash in the movie, because I kind of thought, oh, this is like Army of Darkness. Well, Evil Ash becomes like leader of the Deadites. I thought she was going to be like leader of the zombies.
Oh, that would have been cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, they didn't do that.
That's okay.
So they locked Freddy and Frank in the chapel for safety. We already talked about the cops. They showed up and they're attacked by the zombies.
Yeah.
And then they say, send more cops.
Send more cops.
Yeah, which is never the case. You never want
Never
that.
send more cops.
Unless they're going to go in and die, in case.
Yeah.
And it's a cab all day, every day.
And it's like, oh, finally some good cops. Playing
Yeah.
the filters.
All right. So Freddy dies in Tina's arms.
Yeah.
And then he doesn't actually die. We know that he dies.
He's been dead this whole time.
I guess he turns. Is it correct?
Yeah. Like a flip happens in his brain. He's like, you know what? I finally realized the only thing that stopped this pain, live brains. I love that they always say live brains. It's so dumb to me, but that's what makes
Well,
it
you want
funny.
your food fresh? Why not that?
I don't say like live chicken.
Yes, please don't. And then for some reason they think to throw acid in his face, which
I don't get that. But yeah.
Not sure about that.
They only have one small thing of acid, because we see them talking about it before Teddy Freddy turns, the Nazi and the other guy.
Yeah.
So like, well, I have this acid. And he's like, well, that's not enough for everybody. And they look at it like they're thinking of some plan. And the next time we see it, he just throws it into the first zombie, and that's it.
It's like pocket sand. It's like just right in his face. And but it does set it up for a cool scene at the end.
Yeah.
Right? So that's if it's just that, it was worth it. And then Ernie breaks his foot somehow.
Yeah, he like trips.
They're moving something. He's an old guy, I guess. he just trips a little bit, and he's like, "How's your foot? It's broken." I'm like,
I thought Nazis had good bones.
apparently
Not. It's not a thing known about Nazis.
That's the saying.
They drink lots of milk.
The only good Nazi is a dead Nazi. That's all I know.
I do think it was a disappointing way to break a foot.
They had to hobble him some way. I guess it's kind of the same trope of women in horror movies when they're running through a forest, trip and fall and break. So I guess I kind of like it. That
I don't like when that happens either.
Yeah, that's true.
I just feel like if you're making a motion picture that we have to go watch, make everything interesting.
Every scene should have.
It should
reason.
be interesting.
Yeah.
That's all I want. It's interesting. It doesn't always have to make sense.
Yeah.
But if it's interesting to look at, that's what I want. And someone just kind of tripping backwards, and now, he has a broken foot? Come on. You couldn't have had, like, one of the zombies, like, grab it and twist it?
That would have been cool.
Yeah.
Like we see in Evil Dead. You just want to go back to Evil Dead
I love
always.
this movie so much.
I got to rewatch.
I haven't seen them in a long time.
Yeah. So Spider and Bert go to the cop car. What they're planning on doing is bringing the cop car closer to the building so everybody can jump in.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen because they're attacked by a horde of zombies, and they can't drive to. The people can't jump into the car without getting bit. So they kind of drive out of the cemetery.
Yeah, and like the dude, what's the Miguel is his name?
The actor.
Yeah, what's the Kill's name?
Spider.
Spider. Yeah. Spider's pissed. He's like, yeah, I go back with my friends. And inside, like, they ditched us. But like, I feel like the plan should have been that all along. He should have driven away and like led the zombies away from the door so they could have gotten out. Well, maybe they could have driven away and then circled back and drove really fast back and gotten them.
Yeah. They weren't thinking this through.
Thinking.
Yeah. So they drive out of the cemetery into another horde of zombies, which causes Bert to crash the car into his company, Unita. And then this is where Spider says, "You stupid honky."
Yeah.
Which is great.
You like that quite a bit.
I loved it.
Personally, I thought that was racist.
So Tina and Ernie go up into. They're still at the mausoleum. No, I'm sorry, the crematorium. They go up into the attic. Why a mausoleum or a crematorium has an attic? Who knows?
Why is it called a crematorium anyway? It sounds so perverted. It sounds like what a teenage do you know? I'm trying to think of a movie now. Have you seen Happy Gilmore?
Yeah.
How it's like go to your happy place and they have that thing.
Yeah.
A crematorium is every teenage boy's happy place.
Okay, all right, I like that. Or like a vomitorium.
What do you mean?
Do you know what a vomitorium is?
No.
The ancient Romans would have these what they call bacchanals, like these huge parties where everybody would engorge themselves with food and sex and wine, and then they would go throw up in the vomitorium.
Is this a real thing?
This is a real thing.
Why?
Ancient Romans,
anorexic?
Man. They would just feast for days and days and do this. So,
my God,
yeah, that's a vomitorium. There you go. You're learning so much today.
I didn't know this was an education podcast.
It is. All right, stupid honky. Shut up, stupid honky.
We've learned two things so far: vomitoriums and Nazis have good bones.
You're learning a lot.
Thank you.
I learned that one about
that. That was one I gave you.
So Frank was in the chapel when they let him out. He runs out. He disappears. Well, we come to find out that he ran to the incinerator and goes in and kills himself. And this was also a callback to the earlier scene when he says some.
He's like, anyone, I could operate that fucking machine.
Exactly. And do you remember why the scene happened?
Yeah, because the actor who played Frank didn't want to just hang out in the rain for the rest of the movie. So he was like, wouldn't this be a better thing?
Yeah, I could just die.
But it really changes a lot of things. Like, if that guy is conscious enough to be able to kill himself, what's with everybody else?
Yeah, I just saw it as him not fully turning at the same time as Freddy.
That's a good point, because we don't see it happen.
Yeah.
So he might not be turning yet.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't think about that.
So they're all trapped in Unita, and everywhere Bert tries to go, there's a zombie. So he tries to go in his office, and there's a zombie. Like,
which one is? Oh, that's the Nazi. Okay, yeah.
No.
No. He's the one who owns the place.
Yeah, the owner.
Okay.
So he tries to go into his office to call the police.
Yeah.
And he can't because there's a zombie in there. He wants to go downstairs to use the phone. There's Tarman down there. And so he says we need to do something. And so...
That's a great plug, by the way. We do need to do something.
Hey!
And theaters now. Maybe. Hell out.
So what does he do?
He's like, well, you remember how we blinded that bastard back at the other thing?
Yeah.
Let's blind this fucking tall guy. Open it up and see what happens. And he gets the baseball bat and he knocks off his head.
This is the saddest moment for me because Tarman dies, which I didn't like.
Yeah, we should do like a revival thing on social media till a man lives.
Yeah. Oh, and something I found really interesting here is Freddy is a very communicative zombie. He can smell Tina's brains.
Yeah.
He's talking to her, and he's like you're saying, he's calling out, Tina!
Come on, Tina!
I can smell your brains!
What do you think brains smell like?
Well, have you ever had some Mexicans eat the cow brains?
Oh.
It's esas. They'll put that in tacos.
Oh, yeah?
It smells like vinegar. It's terrible.
That sounds awful.
Yeah, I don't like
My
it
only
at all.
experience with cow brains is watching them eat it on that Rogan TV show. Feel factual?
I always thought you were a big Joe Rogan fan.
I am.
Yeah. Confirmed on the podcast. Max Booth, big Rogan head.
True silly. I recently watched the Quentin Tarantino episode on Rogan. It's pretty good. I liked it.
I imagine. Moving on.
Leave me alone. I like Silton white men.
All right. So Freddy's very communicative. And then, so this I found a really effective scene. Tina and Ernie are upstairs, and Freddy's breaking at the door. They put a door handle there so he couldn't break through it as easy as.
Yeah, they put like a broom through the dome.
Right.
Right.
But
Yeah.
he's like breaking through it, and he's like saying Tina, and then Ernie is holding her, and he has his gun.
Yeah.
And Tina can't see, but it looks like he's about to shoot her as a sign of mercy.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Because I thought the way I saw it was he's going to shoot Tina so he can throw her down and distract the zombie.
Wow.
So I took it a different way than you.
Yeah, you did. Which would make sense if he was a former Nazi.
Yeah.
He would do that because he's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
I took it as
But he is a
sign of...
friend with a Nazi.
He's
He's a friend with a Nazi. He's best friends with a Nazi.
No. We're talking about the Nazi here. This is...
Oh, yes.
Yeah, he's the one that's in
Yes,
the...
that would make sense. He's a coward.
Yeah. So, wow, that's a different way to look at it. But, so, he's trying to break through. You see that? And actually, when we were watching the documentary on this, they were saying that the actress who played Tina was so cried out throughout the whole movie that she couldn't really cry anymore.
Yeah.
And so the actor who plays Ernie put together a mixtape he had for
Of sad songs.
Of sad
I
songs.
wish I knew the songs.
I want that mixtape. I want to hear what songs are on there. And I'm sure it's like Vivaldi, some like classical music.
Maybe.
And all
What song would make you cry?
that. Baby Shark. Over and over and over.
I think
Anything by the Beatles, just over and over and over again.
be awful.
Yeah.
My God. Talk about
Does Quentin Tarantino have like a band? Because that would make me cry.
yeah, it's called Footloose.
That's actually pretty good.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, I guess he could have been like about to shoot all the people out of the misery. Well, he could have been thinking, it's that the mindset, right? Like, if a zombie begins chasing us, I'm gonna trip you or something. It's that same type of mentality of like, I just have to get the zombie as distracted with somebody else so I can get away.
Yeah.
But we don't know what happens.
We don't know.
Because what happens next?
So we switch over. Bert he's downstairs and he's calling the number. No, well, he calls the cops. They can help him because they're overrun. So he calls the number on the barrel. He gets transferred to the general from the beginning. This finally comes back. Colonel Glover.
Yeah, but before we get to that, what happened with the cops?
Yeah, they got overrun.
Oh, when you said that, I thought you meant like they were just really busy. But yeah, they physically get overrun by zombies.
Right.
They get killed.
Yeah, they get killed by the zombies.
I took that a different way.
No worries. And
Please
then,
don't yell.
And then Colonel Glover begins to ask Bert a bunch of questions like, "Oh, and when did this happen? Oh, what did you do then? And what happened then? Oh, interesting. You tried that. What?
It's almost like he's like in Custom Silvis. Like sometimes he'll be like, "Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
What happened then?" But the whole time he's still in bed with his wife next to him. He's just taking notes in his pajamas.
And the wife is in the background. You can just like she's clutching her pearls, like because she knows the day that they've been waiting for. It's finally here. And then Colonel Glover goes to this computer setup that we saw in the beginning, and he calls some sort of higher up, I'm sure some joint chief of staff or some general, and says the hidden Easter eggs have been found, and they've hatched.
Yeah.
He basically he's given the okay. He calls in these nuclear codes to this tank, and this tank is like verifying all the correct codes. And then we see them shoot the bomb off, and then Bert hears the bomb coming in, and then just as Freddy breaks into the attic, there's a freeze frame, and we see that the nuclear bomb has gone off.
Goodbye, Louisville.
Goodbye.
It's actually called
Kentucky.
Louisville.
I'm going to take your word on that.
Trust me.
And then it starts raining. And he's talking to the colonel's talking to his higher up. And he's like, yeah, the situation's all taken care of. Don't worry about it. It'll be over by the morning. But it starts raining, and we know that it's not over.
It's just going to spread it. And I assume that's what happens in the sequel as a consequence of that.
Yeah. And then what do we use? What do we see is they reuse scenes.
The last minute of the movie is just reused footage from previous stuff.
Yeah.
Especially in the graveyard.
Yeah. I don't know why. It was kind of weird.
Maybe they didn't have time to film the stuff they wanted, so it's like, this works.
Yeah, I mean, it was cool. I mean, I like the skeleton, and I like the shot of the water going down into the grave. That was cool.
Yeah. And
then, roll credits, movie's over, then they replay the best parts of the movie.
I miss when movies would do that.
That was cool.
I wish they had, done, the cast names on each of the person. Tall man. We have him, and then he has the name. Maybe they have, how sometimes in college movies they say what they go on to do.
He died 45 seconds after this happened.
I always love when that happens. I wanted to do that for the movie I just made, but when I asked if we could, no one responded. That's true.
Jesus Christ. They're like, this guy.
It was a mass email to many producers.
Ah, shit. So that's the end of the movie. And then we start to hear the soundtrack again, or a song comes up. And they had groups on the soundtrack like the Cramps, 45 Grave, the Damned, and the Flesh Eaters. So this soundtrack, I need to collect a couple of horror soundtracks. This one's really good. They also have it on Spotify.
Yeah, I would want the soundtrack, not of the songs. The songs were great, but I would love just the OST of it.
Oh, the original, yeah.
Yeah, the school, I guess is what it's called. Just the music that's not singing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's just a score.
The instrumental stuff.
Yeah. So what did you think of this movie?
I liked it, yeah. I mean, I have talked for almost 3 hours about how much I like it.
Yeah.
It was great.
On this show, we rate things by 5 upside-down crosses.
Okay.
What would you give this movie?
I would rate this more than 3, less than 5.
So is that 4?
Yeah, I guess so.
Because you can do 3.5
I don't believe in that.
Okay. You believe in decimals. I got you.
Dude, half of an upside down cross is an uppercase L.
Or a backwards L?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
It's a split T.
So you're gonna give it 4 stars?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the ending was a bit rushed, and I wish it had kind of developed a bit more. It seemed like, oh fuck, is Oval now?
Right.
That's what's knocking it down one upside down cross. Because I thought the ending was a bit sudden and a bit rushed. Even if I liked it.
Yeah.
I feel like what it felt like was, I don't know how to end this movie. Let's just blow it up. And then roll credits.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to mention was that I thought was really cool is that a fan was partially responsible for this movie finally making it to DVD.
Okay.
It had been stuck in this hell where it wasn't being put out. You could only find it on VHS, And then he started a website. He was putting together fans of this movie. And finally, he reached out to O'Bannon and kind of got O'Bannon on board with the idea. And then he got MGM and O'Bannon to come together. And finally, through that connection, they worked out a contract to release this on DVD. All right, Max. So
Yes.
the step one was confession. So you've confessed your sin. I appreciate that. The second step is absolution. I will now absolve you of your horror sin. In order to do this, you need to watch 3 horror movies.
Okay.
And then come back on the show and we'll talk about them. All right, Max. These are the 3 movies that I'll be recommending to you. Night of the Comet from 1984, Shockwaves from 1977, and the Night of the Living Dead remake from 1990. I think these movies kind of take little bits of Return of the Living Dead and, kind of showcase the best of that.
What's Night of the Comet about?
So Night of the Comet is a comet comes down to Earth and explodes, and these 2 sisters are survivors, and they think that they're the only ones left alive. Then they come across another survivor, and they kind of band together. They start getting attacked by roving like punks, and so they kind of fight through that.
Nice.
And it's shot beautifully, downtown LA, 80s. It's got an 80s vibe to it. Again, it's got that punk aesthetic that Return of the Living Dead has.
It has an 80s vibe because it came out in the 80s.
Yeah, it's got that 80s music as well. I love it.
Timeless. What's Shockwaves about?
Shockwaves is a island zombie movie. Like these.
I'm out.
You're right. You don't like islands.
I hate islands.
I feel you. Max, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it. Where can the people listening, the many, many people listening, hear you and buy any of your books or let them know what you got coming out?
Oh my god. I have a podcast called Ghoulish. You can listen to it by typing in Ghoulish into the podcast app. I have a book called We Need to Do Something. It recently came out as a movie, a major motion picture. Go watch it at the places that you can watch it. You can buy some of the books I write and also just publish because I run a publishing company at perpetualpublishing.com. Yeah, so check that out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, see?
Yeah, see? Want some pudding, see?
And my name is Miguel Myers. You can follow me at Twitter at MHCPod. You can follow me on Instagram at MyHorrorConfessional. My email address is myhorrorconfessional@gmail.com. The music that you heard was by Taylor Fox. You can follow her on Instagram at TheTaylorFox. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you later.